Oscar only, but this is going to be incredible, a spectacle all throughout the day.
It really does look special. The polka dots en masse, celebrating the 50th year of the polka dot jersey. Jonathan Milan, for the last time, listens to the countdown to get us underway. The final stage of the 112th Tour de France sets off from Mont-la-Ville and will make its way through to the French capital, to the Champs-Élysées. But this year, echoing that road race from just under a year ago, in the Paris Olympics, they will be taking on the Butte Montmartre, the climb, and you saw with Hannah's pictures there just how narrow it gets, how important position's going to be, and you heard from Andre Greipel there, the fact that he just feels it's too much to ask of the riders after the 20 stages that have gone before. Well, whatever he thinks is really a moot point, because the riders are going to have to take it on, and there will be a battle to see who can emerge victorious in our final stage of this year's tour.
كبرات تغطاتلتي ناي مود اتا تور دي فرانس ناي مود اتا ستيج لما انتي يودالو ناي لما انت تصوتهم سيركيت ناي كتما خون كله بوزح عقبت زي بوزحون زوم نبع البنيان دمجعين عقبت نيش يعني عقبت ناي مودا ناي موزع عقم زلهم سبات كده زلوي بنيام قرما كانيش عقب ناي موزع كده زلو لما انت رح نصور زهون صوتها خلينا دا تتصلنا ناي لما انتي
watching him through.
Well,
after the exhaustion at the end of stage 19, the look on the face of Danilo Pogacar is a very different and more cheerful man in yellow. Jonas Vingegaard, the best of the rest. So we come past the Saint-Maclou Tower, former 11th century church there, built after the siege of Mantes by William the Conqueror. Julien Alaphilippe. He will be cheered all the way through today's stage. Beautiful Collegiate Church of Notre Dame here in Mantes with the spectacular roof. Well, wider boulevards and wider avenues at the start of today's stage, the tree-lined avenues of Mont-la-Ville.
allo trade كونه لما عند نعم بطعم عينة صوتاي ما كلاي عقب زلو صوتا سلطهم السوهان مني بطعم كونفورت سلون دمج عينة صوتاي صبعد النمين يام قرمت ما كومنت صحفلي لايك سبسكرايب لاغو سنقودا تغطاتلتين أبو زهاد سبات متان كبتسه عاد الشانالي متابعكم يا فنينا
with the circuits that will be taken on. And just how today's stage is going to pan out remains to be seen. Tiemann Arensman, 2-stage wins to his name, one in the Pyrenees and one also in the Alps. Really beautiful church here. One of the top 3 churches on the Ile-de-France in terms of age and size. And Michel Violet, the town's former mayor, has announced an intention to apply for this church to be listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Well, welcome. Stage 21 of the Tour de France, the final stage of the 112th running of this great event. La Grande Boucle comes to its conclusion here in the French capital on the Champs-Élysées, a finish on the Champs-Élysées for the 50th time in the Tour's history. And for all the peloton, a sense of achievement. Great to see Yvan Romeo on his bike and able to finish today. Lots of gauze and plasters applied after that nasty crash towards the end of yesterday's stage in the wet. There is their destination over the brow of the hill, the Eiffel Tower. They will go past the Eiffel Tower before crossing the Seine and then coming onto the circuit round. Congratulations to Tadej. Back in 2018, it was congratulations to Geraint Thomas. He's racing for the last time in the Tour. Here he is.
Geraint Thomas, how are you feeling before the last dance with the Tour de France?
Yeah, looking forward to it. It's a mixture of sort of relief and joy. And yeah, I think just one last big day, obviously, is, you know, to get to Paris is always special, no matter what has happened in the weeks before. So yeah, we'll enjoy it with the guys.
So it's a big question to answer before the start, but what has this race meant to you and your life and your career?
Well, I don't know, really. It was just kind of a... Well, it's been everything, really. You know, it's that when you grow up, you dream of the Tour. Dream of just competing in it once, and you end up doing it 14 times, and being on every step of the podium is pretty mad, really. And yeah, and then obviously it's just been phenomenal. Never thought I would have done it 14 times. And I think of all the guys I've done it with along the way as well. Some really great memories. You know, even the bad times, you still look back and fondly, really, because you know you've bounced back from them.
How is it for you to see all these signs, all the fans along the road writing thank you to you?
Yeah, that's the nicest part, you know. I think, you know, ever since the start in 07, you know, that the support I've had back home from people in Wales, people in the UK, has just always been amazing. And, you know, every year there's more and more Welsh flags out. And, yeah, as you say, you see signs. And, you know, not just Brits either, you know, like French and Dutch and, you know, whatever, Americans. It's unbelievable. So, yeah, by far that's the thing I'll remember most fondly.
Enjoy your last Tour Stage G.
Thank you.
You just wonder whether it's really sunk in yet. A race that has given him so much, a race that has seen his greatest achievement by winning it. Out in front at the moment, pedaling along and enjoying themselves. Tadej Pogačar, Jonas Vingegaard and Florian Leibowitz. That's our podium, as long as they all stay upright, of course. And for the first time in probably a long time, not a given, considering the stage that lies ahead. 3.6 kilometers to go. So what lies ahead for these three on today's stage? Oh, big thank yous for another great tour. Let's hear what our experts think about today's stage. Well, no points for anyone yesterday. Nobody picked the right guy for the break, so in the standings, everything remains the same as before. As a consequence, it's only Hannah and Carl Friedrich who can hope for the overall win. Alberto says, my favourite for the stage win is Wout van Aert. I think he's got a great opportunity. He's been fighting for the whole tour. It's a circuit he knows well after riding during the Olympics last year. So, my favourite is Wout van Aert.
3 cents of Montmartre, and my final prediction of this Tour de France is going to go with Tim Merlier, the European champion. He's got a whole team around him who can help him try and win this stage, whereas others, I was thinking Wout van Aert, however, he might have to look after Jonas Vingegaard. So for me today, the final stage is going to be Tim Merlier, excellent climber, great classics rider, and he's going to have this wonderful crowd to cheer him on. Allez, Tim, I've got to beat Carl. Get me to the top of the standings.
We are finishing the 112th Tour de France, and I predict that Jonathan Milan will win the final 21st stage on the Champs-Élysées in Paris. The Italian from Lidl Trek will seal his victory in the points classification as a consequence. So I have to say, he's going to be the winner, and all I have to say is thank you for 3 weeks together, best regards, and see you soon.
Pozdrawiam serdecznie, do zobaczenia.
Few other choices to conclude this Tour de France. Jens goes with Kasper Asgreen, Yip with Benelli, Anderson and Moreno think Pogacar will take it, whilst Carl Friedrich sees a double from Groves. Steve, he's gone for a bold win. He's gone for Nice. I wonder if Tadej Pogacar is asking what they think of the jersey for the day. Marc Soler battled hard for Tadej Pogacar during this Tour de France. Well, more than normal, the rollout feels like the quiet before the storm, because we do expect some fireworks once they get into Paris, and not with the normal laps around the Champs-Élysées and the sprints. Tadej Pogacar, joined by his teammates, all of whom, as Nils Pollitt arrives, have done their job for him. The only rider that they're waiting for at this stage is Adam Yates. And Tim Wellens, I think, is getting on the blower just to find out where he is. Jonathan Narvaez, Nils Pollitt, Pavel Sivakov, Marc Soler, Tim Wellens, and they'll be hoping in a minute Adam Yates will make his way up. Here he comes. they've picked a bit of road where there appears to be quite a lot of road furniture, which is making this photo quite tricky. Joe Almeida, the only member of the team who had to abandon the race. So now with a clear bit of road, victorious UAE Team Emirates XRG, celebrating their main man, Tadej Pogačar, becoming the youngest ever four-time victor of the Tour de France. All smiles. Tadej Pogačar on the yellow bike. And UAE Team Emirates posting that fourth victory in the last 6. Jonas Vingegaard, the only man to blot their copybook, so to speak, with those 2 victories. Tim Wellens making sure that that Belgian national jersey on full display. So, as they group together without road furniture for another series of photos together, and we head up to the last 300 meters before kilometre 0. It's time to hand over for the final time to our commentators for stage 21, Brian Smith, and first, Declan Quickly.
Thanks, Jonathan. And yeah, we're heading to kilometre 0 when presumably nothing will continue to happen in a spectacularly gorgeous splash of yellow fashion from the UAE team. XRG squad, victorious squad.
ክቡራት ተኸታተልቲ ናይ ሎማዓንቲ ናይ መወዳእታ መዓልቲ እዩ ፋይናል ማለት እዩ ንቢንያም ድምፅእ ዘሎ ዓይነት ፀወታ እዩ ፀወታ ክሳብ ሕጂ ክሳብ ሕጂ ዩኤኢ ዓወቶም ክፅምብሩ እዮም ፀኒሖም ኦፍኮርስ ዕውታት ስለዝኾኑ ናይ ብጫ ይፅምብሩ እዮም ዘለዉ ዓወቶም ኦፍኮርስ ሕጂ ግን ፀወታ ክጅምር እዩ
in Tour de France history. Any cardboard in evidence, and just a little moment for the UAE Team XRG squad to take on board what they've achieved, as Tadej Pogačar is heading towards the Champs-Élysées to celebrate becoming the youngest rider in history to record a 4th victory in the Grand Boucle. A little bit of a splash of yellow, as you can see, for the UAE team. They brought out
already
jersey sprayers.
Almost an 4 دقائق انت فلوس لزلن خلا يوناس تيميغا والحين تبي بيبيتشا دمت لوكس about ናይ ቀጠልያ ማልያውን ብኸምኡ ዳርጋ ኩሎም እቶም ተፃወቱ ስኒ ሎም ዓንተ ስቴጅ ተደይኮይኑ እተን ማልያታት ኩሉ ግዜ ወሰድተን ናይ ዓቐባት ናይ ክሳይ መንመን ክንበውስዶን ኣፍሊጠን ሆፕፉሊ ግን ሎም ዓንቲ ናይ መወዳእታ መዓልቲ መዓልትና ትኸውን ፅቡቕ ፀወታ የርእየና ኸውን ኣምላኽ ኢንሻላ ፅቡቕ ዕድል ንቢንያም ግርማ ኢልኩም ፀሓፉ
They'll be grateful for that fact. It's a promenade at the moment. It's a time to reflect. They've been given a little bit of daylight and respect from the Peloton. It's a funny thing, isn't it? The team classification actually has been dominated pretty much throughout the Tour de France by the Bismarck bike squad. They've packed 4 riders into the top 20 on general classification. So Geraint Thomas, just oldest man in the race, heading towards a little trip to the Champs-Élysées as a bike racer. It's going to be an emotional moment. suspect for him at the end, when he arrives onto the Champs-Élysées, previously he's had the similar experience indeed that Tadej Pogacar is enjoying. Thumbs up from everyone involved in this race. And yeah, Brian, it's a funny one, isn't it? We fed the team of the winning rider. We also fed the winning team. It's complicated, isn't it, for first-time followers of this sport?
Cycling's a team sport. Tadej Pogacar would not be winning this Tour de France without his team. Simple as that. I just don't know why. In other disciplines of our sport, it's not recognised as a team sport. So, you know, you have to have a team round about you. It's a bit like my analogy of football. Just because you score the most goals doesn't give you the World Cup.
The goalkeeper, the defender, and the midfielders, and everyone.
That's what I don't understand. I don't understand why they don't. Like, if anybody won the time trial, which is an individual effort, yeah, but in the road race, why didn't every member of the Belgian team get a gold medal?
Yes,
it's a team sport. We are very complex in our sport. It is a team effort, especially a Grand Tour. You cannot do it without your team. Okay, Pogacar is a high-end individual and a very talented bike rider and the best in the world at the moment. But you know, there are a lot of times where you need your team round about you to help. Otherwise, if everybody races this race individually, it'd be chaotic.
And it's been an interesting race as well, because early on, Visma Lease bike, they threw absolutely everything at it, and a lot of discussion about their team tactics. But ultimately, while Tadej Pogacar was isolated on a few occasions in the Pyrenees early on, it looked as if maybe he might be a little bit vulnerable, but ultimately the team really did respond, and it seemed like honours even, really, in terms of the level of support that both he and Jonas Vingegaard had.
The problem with Visma Lease was Jorgensen fading away. They needed the numbers. They had that before when they were doing the kind of 1-2 with Pogacar. But I think, as Geraint said, you can isolate a Ferrari, but Ferrari still goes fast.
Harry Sweeney won the Combativity Award yesterday. His teammate, Ben Healy, will be feted on the podium at the conclusion of this event. A long and extended podium conclusion will include, as I said, Ben Healy. He's got the Super Combativity Award. Seems like a worthy recipient of that. We can talk about that. But Florian Lipovitz also now heading to become the first German since Jan Ulrich to win this particular jersey. Dietrich Thurau managed it for the first time for Germany back in 1977. He was a TI rally rider, I think, back in those days. Didi Thurau. And now Florian Lipovitz, 24 years young, emulating that achievement as a debutant in Tour de France. He's really, I think, been one of the standout competitors, if not the breakout. I mean, obviously, a certain amount of lack of objectivity, and
I would agree with you that
thinking about
Lipovitz is to stand out. He's the revelation of the race. He's got on a podium as a rider he hasn't come from nowhere, but his results haven't suggested that. So to get on the podium, I know Scots will argue, well, Oscar Onley, finishing his first Grand Tour last year, finishing the Tour de France at 39th, and then in the podium. Where did that come from? But he's not on the podium, and it's Lipovitz is on there. So for me, that person that's the breakthrough of the year is definitely Florian Lipovitz.
Yeah, ultimately, a little bit of distance between himself and the leading two have been sort of in a race of their own, really, fundamentally. But Florian Lipovitz, in turn, has been able to sort of answer that challenge from Oscar Onley in recent days. And, I mean,
do you know the person
so much better than Primož Roglič?
Yeah, do you know the person that's from previous Grand Tour finishes that's improved the most in the general classification?
Oh, an excellent question. No, go for it.
Vauquelin.
I
think he was in the 90s, 95th, his best place ever.
91st. Yeah, in 23 when he took a stage win. It was stage win last year, wasn't it? And 91st is his best Tour de France.
So I think Oscar Onley's the second, 39th to 4th. But when you look at where Vauquelin is his best place in the general classification, jumping up to where he is now.
Yeah, first Frenchman, Kevin Vauquelin as well, will dine out on that one. First stage win for him in this year's Tour de France. Has that from last year, of course, although it happened in Italy.
Cheers, your Aussies. I'll let you go through them.
Well, I mean, Derbo. You've been talking about teammates. I mean, Luke Durbridge here, the Australian national road race champion, enjoying a little moment out front. A couple of Aussie winners in this year's Tour de France as well. Wonderful win for Ben O'Connor a couple of days ago, his second victory in his Tour de France odyssey. But what about yesterday's win for Caden Groves? It was absolutely extraordinary. Still in promenade mode. We're going to make our way from Mont La Ville by degrees, by slowly inching, winding degrees. It's not even 30 kilometers an hour. This, I mean, you kind of is there sort of a minimum speed that Tour de France cyclists should go out on a flat road? They're tired though. I mean, this has been relentless. There you go. There's the Aussies that have had an opportunity to present themselves at the front, including the aforementioned. Ben O'Connor is Caden there, yeah, but right in the middle. Well, I mean, what a stage win that was yesterday for a man. It bears repeating, he's not just a one-trick pony, he's more than just a sprinter, and he demonstrated that yesterday.
Well, there's 8 riders, Aussie riders there, and they won 2 good stages. So, and many of them, Luke Plapp is there, Ben O'Connor's,
شمون كيلومتر تاريخهم الله كورس حجيم الجمهور زلو صوتا كن دارغا اي عمرهم كلهم بريلاكسون دخل زلو قرب صنيحهم جمهورو اي ترفوني مخنياتو كان حجي
Matteo Trentin, no addition to his collection of 3 Tour de France stage wins this year for the Italian veteran, but clearly
guess a nation now.
كلهم تم ماليا دوسودو celebrating because of the
where's Johnny Milan?
عامل أنا قاعد أذكر بحبهم الشلمات اللي زعوت الزناتنا اليوم.
Who are winning
عندهم عمل
stage of Tour de France as a debutant, running green.
نحن تكون كالت إنه عمل إن شاء الله نمت العمل.
Finishing podium, mathematically certain to take that. Just has to complete the day.
Does that surprise you?
That he's won it as a debutant?
No.
That nation.
Italy, yeah, it's been 9 riders. Relatively, slim pickings, isn't it? I mean, there's a small amount of riders, and indeed they haven't been so prominent.
The one they have secured is the Lantern Rouge. Consoli is going to be the final man of general classification at the end of this, so he's pretty bandaged up, banged up. He's done great work though for Johnny Milan here, Jonathan Milan. كورة تغلطتي حد الشانر سيزون إنه وعمتان كونه شير سبسكرايب نقولكم.
2 stage wins along the way. More prospect.
Yeah, it's 9 riders. It's such a huge. When I grew up in cycling, Italy was a huge nation. I rode the Giro d'Italia in '94, and I think 75% were Italian bike riders. So it's to see only 9 riders in the whole field just shows you how cycling has changed. Traditional cycling nations. Cycling nations coming forward.
Yeah, a lack of teams at the top level as well for Italy, and where are the role models, where's the inspiration coming from for the next generation? They don't have an obvious standout GC contender at the moment. Italy.
Well, that's what I was just about to say. 2019, that was the last stage they won as well until this year.
And it's interesting when you look at the top 10 on general classification. As a result of Ben O'Connor slipping out of the top 10 yesterday, we've got an all-European top 10. First time that's happened since 1997. It's actually sort of almost a regression from the trend we've seen in the last couple of decades, 3 decades.
Can't get more laid back than that.
That's pretty much sort of a description of the Peloton right now, isn't it?
Okay, next up,
Captain America and friends.
Is your green jersey and team?
Yeah, it's interesting that we've got Quinn Simmons here, US National Road Race champion. He's been a great ally and assistant to all of the Lidl track riders. And of course, has been awarded a new prize. They made him the best teammate. It's an interesting selection, and we can chat about that as the day goes on as well. I know, Brian, you found it slightly surprising. Not that he certainly hasn't been a rider that has animated this, but potentially could have been one for the super combative.
Yeah, definitely one for super combative. You know, there's a lot of arguments, but the best teammate by getting in a breakaway and trying to win a stage is not maybe being a teammate, but he has done a lot of work. When you consider Tim Wellens, okay, he's won a stage, but you know the teamwork he does for this guy here. There's a lot of good team work guys that you really don't see what they do.
Big moment for Tobias Holland Johansson. He's going to become the first Norwegian to finish in the top 10 of Tour de France. Let's hear from him.
Tobias, this is the last stage, but not the easiest one. What do you expect?
I think it's going to be a legendary bike race today, and I expect a lot of people, and yeah, I think it's going to be a cool bike race.
What are the plans for the team today?
I think we have a bit of a split plan. We try to take care of the 6th place in GC and be safe, and then we also have a guy like Jonas Abrahamsen or Stian Fredheim that's perfect for today, and I think it will be yeah, like a classic finish today.
Are you happy with this place at the GC, because it was a big battle during 3 weeks?
Yeah, I'm more tired than I've ever been, and I think like the GC battle has been quite intense because it's been crosswinds and it's been full gas every day, but that's what we enjoy. So I think we can be really happy with 6th. It's better than we expected, and it gives us fuel to the fire for the future.
Thank you so much, Tobias. Good luck for today.
Yeah, another star of present and future. Best previous GC finish by a Norwegian, Jostein Billman, back in 1980. He was 14th. Getting used to it now, isn't he? Pog. They've even wrapped the car and done a nice
Well,
job.
officially we are under race conditions, so you can't hang on to the car. Tim Wellens disqualified, Pogacar disqualified. Officially you can't hold on to the car. And what's happening?
Well, I mean, once upon a time, riders used to get on motorbikes and there'd be sort of lots of champagne flutes. And of course, I remember Stephen Roach copping a penalty for smoking during this particular promenade element of the finals. How do you feel about this promenade as we see the Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe riders make their way to the front?
Me personally, I don't like it. It's happening now in the Giro d'Italia. I'm pretty sure it'll come into the Vuelta. I don't like it, but you know, a lot of the riders just want to go into the race, but there's protocols and things like that, and there's nice pictures, and you know, when you look at what you get back from the Tour de France, is possibly 60 to 80% of your visibility as a sponsor. So it's very important to be.
And this ceremony, this protocol, as you say, has sort of developed. It's sort of, you know, hardened over the years, and there is almost a running order attached to. Quite clearly is, and it's all kind of organised, and yeah, it is something that's developed over the years, rightly or wrongly. Some lament the fact that it's not an absolutely flat chat charge to the line. Maybe if they made the stage 30 or 50 kilometres long, this whole thing would be a little bit shorter.
Or maybe just start it on the Champs-Elysees. There you go.
Back to the Champs-Elysees after the time trial last year, back for a 50th appearance, and indeed the 50th anniversary of the first Champs-Elysees crash back in 1975. But this one, bit of a twist.
Yeah, 3 things that changed that year, 50 years ago. Finishing the Champs-Elysees, polka dot and white.
Yeah. And indeed, the polka dot jersey is going to be claimed by Tadej Pogacar. Relatively rare thing, but 9 riders indeed in total have won the King of the Mountains classification, as well as the entire Tour de France in the same year. Gino Bartoli back in 1938 and 1948. Both of his Tour successes came with the victory in the King of the Mountains competition, although obviously there was no jersey for it back then. Silver Mass back in 1939. Fasto Coppi, his Tour victories, the two of them, 49 and 52, also coming with the Mountains title. Federico Bahamontes, Eddie Merckx, Carlos Sastre, Chris Froome, Tadej Pogačar himself in 20 and 21. And at one stage, he flirted with the possibility of winning 3 classifications. Really focusing on it. The green jersey classification, the departure of Mathieu van der Poel really sort of took the wind out of that one.
Yes, I think so. But they go from the front for the pictures and then they go to the back for the pictures with the team car.
Yeah, everyone has to get their...
So front to back, quickly, come on.
Maximum branding opportunity, and the bikes as well have to be fated. And the entire Lidl Trek squad came very much orientated towards sprinting, albeit of course Matthias Skjelmose is the notable absentee, the only non-finisher indeed from the Lidl Trek squad. Danish climber abandoning on stage 14 after already to that point it had been a very disappointing Tour de France, but 2 stage victories for Lidl Trek along the way. Could it be a third today? Can you get up over Boutmont Marty? Kevin Vogelant, as you say, the most improved rider in terms of general classification, his previous best, languishing in the early 90s, 91st. Arkea B&B Hotels as well as their best finish in a Grand Tour in 18 Grand Tour appearances. Finally got a top 10.
So we can try and guess what's happening here. Is this the Norwegian team? Yeah, I think the Voicom is calling up his other teammates as well. So I think it's now adding. I think we're here not just for the Norwegian team, but this is a celebration of where Johannesson finished in this year's tour. So if this is happening, we might actually see every other place on the podium.
In the top 10 even.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, sorry, in the top 10, yeah.
UnoX
Arkea at the front now.
Savage actually, Tour de France for the UnoX squad. Yeah, it's Arkea on the front, UnoX down the back, getting themselves sorted. Tobias Halland, as we mentioned, 6th place overall, and of course that's a stage victory for Jonas Abrahamsson. Might be another one that might have an eye on this one today. We already heard from Tobias Halland Johansson suggesting that he's one of their 2 options. And he has looked pretty active. He seems to have got through the 3 weeks pretty well. He was on the attack yesterday. Somewhat embattled Arkea B&B Hotels squad. Best stage finishing position of 5th, but they have got that excellent 7th place overall for Kevin Vogelant. And time, I think, and we have a moment, I think, to reflect and to thank our colleagues on the motorcycles and indeed in the helicopters and elsewhere throughout the production.
I can't ride the pavement either.
The penalties have become thick and fast.
Or just to give a name check to the team here. General manager is Thor Hushoff. Well, we'll come back to that. I'll let you go through the Arkea team.
Yeah, the Arkea B&B Hotel squad. Kevin Vogelant, their top place rider, 7th overall. Amaury Capio, Arnaud Demar, looking to add to his collection of 2-stage victories in his career, perhaps later on today. Raul Garcia, we've seen Ewan Costu in fine form actually, and a great ally and supporter to Kevin Vogelant. Raul Garcia was on the attack yesterday as well. Matheus Labera, Christian Rodriguez, the best placed Spaniard on general classification in 20th, which is remarkably low down on GC to have a top Spaniard. To talk about the Italians, we can talk about the Spanish riders as well. And Clement Venturini was one of those 2 riders who managed to unfortunately crash in the final kilometre when the main peloton yesterday was battling for pretty much nothing. He's back up on his wheels, and they're going to bring the whole team home as well.
Yeah, they have got the whole team. There's only 6 of them here. Here they come. Late to the party.
Well, yeah, I mean, they didn't get the memo. We've got all 8 up front there.
Oh, somebody spoils it with putting their jelly on. take that off for the photograph.
No national champions among them, so it is a complete. It's a sort of
He's
neat.
been told to take it off. See, this is where it's not planned. It's just happening as we're going along, because this never really happened in the past. It's getting more and more and more.
Trying to think of more ways and more people to acknowledge and celebrate. And yeah, I mean, this team is rumoured to be in a little bit of a crisis. The suggestions that perhaps the title sponsor might be departing the fray, and that the team could be in a little bit of a challenge to try and get the funding to continue next year. So these opportunities have value.
Well, they had to have a very good Tour de France. Like I said to you before, 60 to 80% of all visibility for sponsors is in the Tour de France. So you have to get the result. And fifth, is that going to be good enough to save the team? There's rumours about Voigtland going to Ennis Grenadiers next year. So yeah, who knows what the future of this team is? But they come into this race not having a sponsor for next year. So it's not great times. And normally, if someone was coming in, they would maybe come in and there'd maybe be announcements, during the tour. But let's hope they do find something.
Yeah, we do get a lot of announcements, don't we, around sort of commercial activity at Tour de France time. Once upon a time, there used to be lots of rider contract negotiations. Well, I'm sure that could potentially be going on, at least tentative conversations. But of course, the announcements won't take place until August, because it was getting a bit silly, wasn't it? And riders and teams were trying to focus on the racing and didn't need the extra confusion of announcements around rider contracts. So that's been parked and moved further back.
There's a bit of money up the road in just over 800 metres time.
They might get a free point for the King of the Mountains classification here. Yes, just by default, you'd never know. Jonas Vingegaard is wearing that King of the Mountains jersey. He's got the Mayo at Bois, but he's wearing it on behalf of the man that's won this race overall, Tadej Pogacar, and has won the King of the Mountains classification. No stage win for Jonas Vingegaard. I wonder how he feels about this particular Tour de France.
Jonas Vingegaard, we've been very impressed about your punch, your explosivity in this tour. We've been joking a little bit about. You said that you might do some classics next year, Flanders. Today you have Montmartre. How excited are you for it?
I guess today we'll figure out if I can do Flanders next year, and yeah, will be exciting to see. No, first of all, I just want to get safely through the stage. I'm already thinking a bit about the Vuelta a España, trying to get as easy as possible out of the tour, to be as fresh as possible for the preparation for the Vuelta.
And finally, Jonas, going into Paris stage here, how do you sum up this tour? Because you came in with a lot of confidence, and yet another win to Tadej.
Yeah, it's true. It's been a weird Tour de France for me, to be honest. I think I'm better than I've ever been before. I think I showed that on some equations, but also I've had some off days that I actually never experienced before. So, of course, yeah, it's a bit how would it have been without the bad days? Yeah, it's something that we don't know, but yeah, at least I could have been closer.
Jonas, enjoy the last days, and I can't wait to see you attacking on couples.
Thank you. I'll do my best. We'll see.
A bittersweet Tour de France for our runner-up in this particular event. But what a battle he has had with Tadej Pogacar throughout the 3 weeks. 4 minutes and 24 seconds. Not the biggest gap, but indeed there has been between them. He had more than 7 minutes of an advantage, didn't he, a couple of years ago when he took the win ahead of Vingegaard. What an extraordinary thing. 5 years in a row, we have had the same two riders. 6 years, isn't it? We've had the same two riders, first and second on general classification. It's a remarkable battle that is ensuing. Yeah, do we have a battle for this?
No, they can't crash this time, the two of them. They cannot. Please don't do it. There's €200 on the line. Please don't crash this time. They crashed in the first stage if you've been watching it all the way through the tour. Yeah, and Verscher and Benjamin Thomas there. So they're reenacting it.
Yeah, without the crash, I suspect. We claimed that one. There's 200 euros on the line, you reckon, there? I know you were looking it up, and yeah, every euro is a prisoner.
Yeah, friends from start to finish. They got themselves in the breakaway, crashed into each other going for the King of the Mountains, and I think it was Verscher that just nipped that one there.
Well, we wait for the photo with bated breath.
Just going to actually go back to my notes, and
it's always hard to remember, isn't it? It's so long ago. 3 weeks is a long, long time.
Yeah, the Jonas Ruch and Bruno Armarai were in a breakaway of 5 actually. So it was Labert that was there as well. So back on that, so 3 of the original 5-man breakaway. They're thinking of everything.
First of 5 categorised clones along the way. They are, to be honest, dead rubbers. They're of little consequence or value because the King of the Mountains competition is complete. I've seen so much from Thibaut Nace in this race. Of course, he's been a really valuable ally to Jonathan Milan and others in their bid for stage honours. Could be interesting to see exactly how the Little Trek squad's set up. Will there be an opportunity for him to be adventurous, or will it be all in for Jonathan Milan?
I think Milan. I think it's still going to be a sprint. It's a kilometre. It's okay. It's hard, but I think that from what I've seen of the Tadej Pogačar, I think he just wants to get this finished. I know that he likes to create history and look at these type of things, and there's only been one person that I know of is one in yellow in the Champs-Élysées, and that was Bernardino. Does he want to do that? Does he want to get in the mix and things like that? I don't think he does. And if the rain comes down and things like that, I don't think you want to get involved. I think it's safety more than anything. Just get to the finish, and I think we'll see a bit of a race, but I do think we'll see a sprint come the end, and most of the sprinters over there.
Yeah, there's a 5K rule, of course. If you're in the group with 5K to go, it's got an extended 3 to 5 kilometre route, but could indeed potentially during the classification be extended onto the Montmartre circuit, depending on, of course, the weather conditions as they develop across the day. The race director has indicated, Eric Gouvenou, that they will make the decision, and they're well capable of making that decision along the way. Now, the
Danes coming up now.
Oh yes, the Danish riders. At least one Britain. A couple of Danish national road race, former road race champions in the EF Education Easy Post lineup, and
first start.
And it's been a funny old race, you might say, for the team. Best finishing position of 4th. Navide Ballerini's managed a 5th. Evgeny Fedorov is out of the race now, but he managed an 8th. 11th for Mike Turnison, but Simone Velasco yesterday, giving them a personal best finishing performance, and it was pretty impressive stuff. These are the Danes up front. Magnus Kort on the left-hand side, Kasper Asgreen, Jonas Vingegaard. It's picking post now. You've got Tobias Lund, who might be one to pick out for today. Dahlgren on the right-hand side of your picture. King of the Mountains jersey and King of the Danes, Jonas Vingegaard. And it's 5 years in succession that they've been first 2 in general classification. It's a remarkably consistent rivalry. It's one for the ages. And it continues to run. They get on okay, I think, but yet they really knock spots off each other in the mountains. In some ways, it was a little bit frustrating. It didn't quite fire a couple of days ago when we thought it was until La Plagne that something special was going to happen. But they almost seemed to punch each other to a standstill to a certain extent. That energy. Now the next squad called to the front of the peloton as we meander our way through to the conclusion of this this 21st and final stage, Tour de France 25. Total Energy, another squad that's relatively slim pickings for them, albeit Jordan Gigat has given us some great entertainment in the last couple of days. Yeah, top 10.
That's good. That's good for that team.
Enjoying a little bit of limelight here. Jordan Gigat with that 10th place overall. Best finishing position for the team, 4th. Yeah, and we've seen the likes of Matteo Vercher on the attack. Thomas Gachinard as well has kind of represented everything. He's represented the spirit of the Tour de France to a certain extent as well, hasn't he? His stomach problems, his emotion, but he managed to struggle through, and he's still in the bike race. That's equipped all but one of their riders set to complete the Tour. Actually, all but two. Steph Kras as well. Steph Kras abandoning on stage 4. Lilian Jaunier as well on finisher.
See, this is early for them to do this. Normally they do it when they start to get into the streets of Paris. So it suggests that, you know, if we get the rain capes, that maybe if they push on a little bit, they might finish before the rain.
Well, not a bad idea. Huh? yeah. Someone should actually maybe send that message forward.
Or is it a case of they can get to the bar quicker?
Well, maybe it's because you've got the Montmartre climbs, and then you've got the first 3 sort of tours without the climb around Champs-Élysées. Then we've got the 3, and just the fact of those hills, that the race actually might just start a little bit earlier because riders might necessarily, might want to get in.
I think it's a case of just get it done with. It's even a lot of the riders don't like just bowling along at 20 kilometers an hour. So just get into Paris, get on with the racing, and let's have a party.
Oh, what about Ben Healy? He had a good old rattle for pitch for a medal in the Olympics on this finishing circuits last year for Ireland. Couple of days in yellow as well for Ben Healy. Stage victory on stage 6, and he's got the Super Combativity Award. What a Tour de France for the Irish rider.
Ben Healy, you've been very, very impressive in this tour, and I have a question. Do you ever get tired?
Sometimes, yeah.
Are you tired now?
I think yesterday was probably one of my best days of the tour. So yeah, I mean, if I have the same legs that I did yesterday, then that'll be a nice feeling, I think.
You try to sum up the whole tour for us.
Yeah, it's just been an absolute whirlwind. From start to finish, it's been crazy stressful every day, and just thankfully we've had a super strong, super motivated team here, and we've been up and amongst it every single day, and I think we've just done exactly what we want. Want to do, animate this race, and coming away with a stage and a sitting yellow jersey is just, dream come true.
And your first time riding a GC in a Grand Tour, is that something you would like to try again?
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say I was riding a GC. For sure I was in the last week, but the first week I managed to skip all the stress and the commotion. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that question yet, because I love racing for stages, and getting to put my hands in the air is what I really enjoy.
Finally, can we expect the new Ben Healy show today?
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. It was a hard day yesterday, and it's going to be a tricky little circuit today. So, but yeah, if there's an opportunity, then why not go for it?
Good luck, Ben.
Thanks.
Why not? 4th Irishman to finish in the top 10 of general classification in Tour de France. Ben Healy, replicating the achievement most recently of Dan Martin back in 2018. And it has been a funny old tour, hasn't it, for Ben Healy? He's in the top 10 on general classification, but it has been mostly about stage hunting, and he's not 100% sure whether it's something he should explore in the future.
Yeah, just learning about yourself. As you said in his interview there, just kept away from all the stress at the starters, and purely because of the style of racing that he does, he got himself there. You could say the same for Gigat. I don't think he came in here with a top 10 in mind, but with the aggressive racing that they've moved up, and there's such huge gaps in the general classification as well. So Yeah, it's been
over
good to see.
an hour between the first.
In modern cycling, that's huge. Because, let's be honest, in modern cycling, there's not normally there are big gaps. You know, it's all quits and things like that. But nowadays, everything's relatively close. And but I'm just hearing that there's heavy rain in Montmartre.
And I wonder if the ceremonial tour into Paris has been postponed as well at this point, because they're setting up on the front at a reasonable lick. Looks to me potentially that the UAE Team Emirates XRG squad have decided that enough is enough. Let's get riding. Let's get down there. And what decision will need to be made? Whether the race organisers think about neutralising the GC on that finishing circuit, and what indeed will the implications be for the stage itself?
Yeah, the protocol's already there, ready to press the button, and it would be Thierry Gouvenet. Are they waiting for a crash to happen, and then they're going to? It has to be clear. We've seen it happen in many other races. That's, you know, there's a lot of indecision, but let's hope it's clear what happens as they.
All smiles for Julian Alaphilippe. 6-stage victories in his career. No doubt he as well might just explore his opportunities to take his lead at the Peloton when we arrive onto that short climb. First time in the history, the Champs-Élysées history of Tour de France, that we've had this impediments put into the potential for the sprinters to cruise to glory. We'll see exactly how it plays out. But look at this, we now a bike race broke out. Good stuff.
Confirmation au niveau du radar, confirmation, la pluie va arriver avant d'arriver à Paris. La pluie va arriver avant l'entrée sur Paris.
Confirming what we knew, Decathlon AG Tour Le Mondial have Felix Gall in 5th place overall. It's going to be a fine performance. First Austrian to record 2 top 10 finishes in Tour de France. Decathlon AG Tour Le Mondial don't have a standout sprinter. Bastien Tronchamp potentially might just try and hang on the coattails of the fast man, but who and indeed what and indeed how are they going to play this final stage? Clouds in the distance, still south of 20 degrees Celsius, and that creates a scenario where they've got gilets and long sleeves on. Feels a little bit more fresh, and the riders just paying attention to the potential for the weather to put a bit of a dampener on this final stage. Is it going to affect perhaps the fact that we've got rain today? Is that going to affect the thinking around running this stage next year?
I'm hearing that they might be changing the finishes, but they might not have the Champs-Élysées finishes moving forward. It would be a crying shame. So because it's in my lifetime, it's been there for so many years. But I think the last thing they want to do is neutralise this stage today, because it just won't look, you know, up by the sides, and you know, as a spectacle, it's brilliant when you know, in the Champs-Élysées. So I just hope it's a spectacle today with the rain coming down.
Yeah, fabulous atmosphere and multiple opportunities to see the riders as always. You know, it's a little bit of a national / world championships kind of vibe about it, isn't it? And that's I think what is a large measure of the attraction, is that they come through again and again and again, and you've got this spectacular flat out crescendo.
To these parties, so there's, for every team of, there might be between 24 and 30 maybe people, because what ASO do is they give you, obviously each rider and each staff firm, but they give you the hotel rooms and things like that. But anything on top of that, if you want extra hotel rooms, you have to pay for that, and it can get quite expensive in the Grand Tour. So most of the teams have their allocation, but then you can triple it when it comes to inviting, or maybe even more when it comes to sponsors. you know, I've been involved in that side with the kind of CSC team where I think they had about 200 guests come Paris in their own, you know, part of ASO's package area. So there's a lot of that. As I was saying, 60 to 80% of sponsorship, awareness in cycling. A lot of it is in the Tour de France. So, you know, this is a big day for everybody, and I hope the rain doesn't rain down in the parade.
Yeah. Comfortably the lowest average speed, I think.
Well, it was 24 kilometres an hour until UAE Team Emirates came to the front.
Yeah, it'll probably be well north of 40 kilometres an hour by the end, one would assume. So, plenty of dignitaries getting a wonderful opportunity to ride with the race director. An unusual situation on the communique. I'm not sure if you spotted it, but
as well the driver
of the race director, Frank Penalty, for his behaviour ended up in the. It was a lot of racing going on. He ended up in between.
It was the time where Kasper Asgreen was in front. That time when he came very close, when there was looked like a branch was down in the road and had been cut back. Remember that time when he got very, very close? As I said, he'd fallen asleep a little bit. That's what happened.
So he gave his own driver a penalty for that. Yeah, €500. Yeah.
The yellow card.
The yellow card's got to behave himself today. Yeah, I don't think anyone has. Yeah, there you go. He's got the yellow jersey on the front of the peloton, tapping out a rhythm.
Who said that Tadej Pogačar was going for the stage today?
Well, that would suggest that he's riding for others today, wouldn't it?
He just wants to be safe. He wants to get this done. Dusty doesn't mind riding on the front.
Show the jersey and maybe just in a way honour his teammates with this a little bit. This moment on the front as well, as if to say, I'll do some work for you guys, and you know, to shoulder some of these early kilometres, do some of the legwork, and just it's almost a ceremonial thing as well. And I kind of like the sentiment that's been expressed here.
Yeah, exactly that. You know, he's not. Oh, he's done his fair share of riding in the wind on his own and dragging others. But today, you know, it's a good thing for the fans outside the road to see the yellow jersey at the front. So, of course, when everybody's going through in a peloton, a lot of pretty sure there's a lot of kids outside the road to try and spot that yellow jersey.
1:10 to go. Pace is picking up a little bit earlier than we expected. Tapping out a solid rhythm of 52.3 kilometres per hour. The overall race winner in waiting. There's Pavel Sivakov and friends as well. A bit earlier, they're a little bit concerned about that rain. Oh, just waiting for attach the string in, but the UAE Team Emirates XOG squad on the front of the peloton, and happy enough to take it up and happy enough to have the opportunity to showcase their ability and their strength, and to celebrate a glorious victory for Tadej Pogačar. Continues to set records. Speaking of records, the record average speed of Tour de France likely to be recorded today, because we had 42.8 kilometres an hour was the average speed of Tour de France 828. And the current record, 41.1, is likely to be eclipsed. Okay, we've had a very slow average speed so far today, but they'll pretty soon, I think, be up and over 40 kilometres per hour. And it's set to be fast all the way to the conclusion of the event. We do have an intermediate sprint along the way. There's a third crossing, indeed, of the finish line in Paris. Back of the peloton, just easing his legs into the action. Matteo Jorgensen, he was like, oh no, passed all the way. Well up in general classification in the first week of racing. Unfortunately, fell out of the top 10, and that meant that it was one-on-one between Tadej Pogačar and Jonas Vingegaard, and the brave bid by the Visma Lisa bike squads to put it up to all concrete. Seen over the outskirts of Paris, 132 kilometres today. It's one of the longer final stages. Longest one for years. At 132 kilometres, they normally sort of hover around a 110 to 125 kind of numbers. Slightly longer concentration run down to our finishing circuits today. Stage 21. The final push for the riders in Tour de France 2025, 112th edition, and Matteo Jorgensen riding along at the back. What a in the teams classification. We saw the U18 Emirates XRG squad celebrating the victory of Tadej Pogačar up at the front of the peloton. Indeed, they're setting the tempo on the front. But of course, the best team in the rankings is actually the Visma Lisa bike squad. I know Jonathan Harris-Bass has been watching with interest as this has developed, and the race is starting off a little bit earlier as they're a little bit concerned about the weather, Jonathan. But it's an interesting one, that team's classification, isn't it? Because it's not actually Tadej Pogačar's team that are winning the team's classification.
It is interesting, and if anything, I think it will be quite nice if Visma Lisa bike get some reward, because they have animated the race. As we've looked back at the highlights, they've really tried to unsettle good enough. But as a consequence, if that is reflected with them getting the team award, I think it'll be just desserts for the efforts they put in.
Why does it irk Jonas Vingegaard at all that he has to wear the polka dot jersey on behalf of the winner of the competition, Tadej Pogačar, that he knows he's not going to make it to the final podium wearing that polka dot?
Do you think that potentially is a discussion that they have in the team, and the reality is he stands out more and therefore the sponsors get more exposure?
Maybe, yes, maybe, although sponsors sometimes are a little bit miffed, aren't they, when they've half a dozen national champions in their team, because very often you don't get to see their team colours, their sort of traditional strip. Although it is noticeable, isn't it, that they have the Visma Lisa bike squad have given him a sort of a red and white helmet to make him a little bit easier to pick out. It's easier for his team as well, presumably, to find him in the peloton, and has certainly made it easier for us as commentators to pick him out, and indeed for the fans. I think it's a really useful development. I like to see personalised colours for a lot of the riders. It's noticeable, isn't it, with Wout van Aert, and Jonas Vingegaard is kind of also bucking the trend, and as a result is a little bit easier to pick out.
I would say, as a commentator, it's really advantageous. I'm a big fan. We're getting all of that news through about the weather conditions in Paris, the approaching weather conditions, and as a consequence, the pace really has been upped by the peloton. Adam, certainly, it's going along at a fair usual on a final day. Usually at this stage, it gets ramped up a little bit later on. So it's got a very different feel to it. This final stage, 50th time that they will finish on the Champs-Élysées, but a very different finish to the one that we had 2 years ago. Traditionally, we'd had for a number of times. One of the riders who stood out at this tour has been Oscar Onley. He's going to finish 4th, and we caught up with him.
Oscar Onley, it's been very, very impressive to follow your tour. It's finishing off today in Paris with Montmartre. Thinking about trying something and trying to push Florian
in a circuit like this. If it's 10 seconds or something, then it's different. But I think, also if the team Lipowitz has, then I think, it's not really realistic to try and gain time. But we're fully focused with Toby today for the stage. I think he's been really good this whole tour for me, and today suits him really well, I think.
And as a Dane, I'm very happy to hear that. Oscar, it's your first Grand Tour riding GC up there. If you could have given yourself an advice before the tour started, what would you have told yourself?
I think the way I did it was really well managed. I think there was no pressure from the team. They've handled that really well, because I think as soon as you say you're going for GC, then there's a lot more attention on you. And we never really had the plan to go for GC in the beginning. It was more just see how it goes. and yeah, I've just taken every day as it's come really, and not made any extra stress because the tour is already stressful enough just to ride and to compete. So yeah, I think I'm really happy with how myself and how
in those mountains.
Yeah, it's really cool, and it gives me a lot of confidence for the upcoming races as well, because these are the top guys in top shape in the biggest race. So if I can do it here, then why not in other races?
Enjoy the last stage.
Thank you.
Yeah, enjoy. Fabulous performance from Oscar Only. Real breakout performance from himself and Florian Mitrovic. What a great old scrap indeed. They kept us entertained throughout the 3 weeks, particularly in the final week when the battle for general classification among the top two was kind of stabilised a little bit. But Oscar Only now fourth place finish of Robert Miller back in 1984, and Oscar Only, the sky's the limit at the moment.
I'm sure you've already had a conversation with Brian about this, but I thought it was quite interesting to hear the words of Andre Greipel in the introduction to today's stage, talking about how he didn't feel that this particular finish was necessary.
Yeah, kind of been talking about it a little bit. Now, I have to say, I find it interesting. Describe necessary. What's necessary? Entertainment, a challenge, an extra challenge, a stimulating challenge. Brian certainly would bemoan any departure from a Champs-Élysées finish. I certainly would love to keep a Champs-Élysées finish, but absolutely it would be. I happen to think it's a very interesting addition. However, if we are going to have the cobbles and the fact that it's very narrow roads that they have to work their way around, which looks likely, by the way. We're hearing that there's heavy rain on Montmartre, and indeed as well there's some talk, as yet unconfirmed, but the time will be neutralised at the fourth lap of the race. So we have 3 laps to begin with up and down the Champs-Élysées, and then a lap around Montmartre. So we're just waiting for confirmation of exactly what that means and whether that's actually what's going to happen. But if that's the case, you wonder what it will do to the stage and the character of the stage as well. An awful lot of riders potentially are going to be a little bit more conservative in their approach, a little bit less likely to get involved. In which case also the teams that want to control for a sprint might just be able to, sort of put manners on the group. So it'll be fascinating to see. I don't think we're in any way we're going to have a similar event to the Olympics last year. That was, and for the sprinters, it's going to be altogether less challenging to try and stay in a group of 150 than it would a group of 50. So with that knowledge, just how many of the Baradors and how many of the big names, particularly Tadej Pogačar, are actually going to try remains to be seen. But I think something to disrupt a little bit the usual rhythms is always to be welcomed, and I like to see innovation. I like to see development. I like to see change, not necessarily just for change's sake, but if it has a positive effect on the race.
If it has a positive effect on the racing, I absolutely agree. I think the major concern that Andre Greipel has, and I think would probably, I don't know whether we get that much honesty out of the Peloton at the moment, but it feels that there might be this sentiment that after the brutality of the previous 20 stages, with just how hard this has been raced, to put the riders under the pressure of what looks like it's going to be a particularly treacherous. The thing is, even if it wasn't raining, those cobblestones are they're tricky to navigate. The descent from Montmartre is particularly steep, and so it'll be very, very fast. And it's also very narrow. So there is a lot that potentially could go wrong.
Yeah, it's a complicated one, isn't it? Because I do quite like the idea of a final stage being run sort of honestly. The sort of creeping trend of stages being neutralised earlier and earlier on the final day, and the whole thing being a promenade is not necessarily, I think, a welcome development. Having said, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I mean, they're all a bit wrecked at this point. They're already in demob mode, aren't they, to a certain extent? Yeah, thanks to you as well. Thanks to all our moto pilots and moto camera people as well of fabulous images that have been presented to us throughout this 3 weeks of racing, and indeed throughout the 12 months of the racing year as well. It's a really skilled, professional, difficult job as well. These riders and pillions, they suffer in the weather conditions as well. They won't be looking forward to Montmartre. Yeah, I think I interrupted myself there a little bit. Fundamentally, I mean, it is a challenge, isn't it? I like to see something that will stimulate the racing and not necessarily just make it a long ride to a very fast sprint. But is Montmartre going to be the answer? Well, let's see how it plays out. I have to say that Olympics last year was a terrific road race, and the atmosphere was absolutely sensational. I think the atmosphere today as well is going to be a real thrill. It's like an extra place to see it, isn't it, for the spectators?
Yeah, no doubt. And I just think that the images that Hannah Walker's already broadcast to us, just the atmosphere that's building there, is fantastic.
Inside 100 to go. 100 kilometres left of Tour de France 2025. Been a long 3 weeks. Any highlights? Anything to pick out? Anything that just was you found surprising, exciting?
I mean, as with every Tour de France, they always have these. They have their great moments, and we were just chatting away to Colt before we went on air about the fact that actually it's very, very easy to forget what has gone before very quickly on a Tour de France, because you're just on to the next day, and then when you actually sit down at the end of the tour and look back, that's when you can start to remember things. I think I really, really loved the victory from Ben Healy, and I loved him being in the yellow jersey. I thought that was really special. The horrendous crash of Jasper Philipsen was spectacular for all the wrong reasons in the race. Jonas Abrahamsen winning a stage, I thought was incredible. And I think,
isn't it? We thought they were going to get caught. It was superb. Yeah.
So that was, and then I picked him out almost every day. I've got on air with you, but Quinn Simmons, I just think has been quite outstanding during this tour, and I'm really pleased that he's won this inaugural prize as a consequence of sort of MVP of teammates. So I think that's wonderful. This year, the Saint-Cyr, l'école the militaire, which was one of 6 defence colleges that was founded by Charles de Gaulle back in 1966 when he was president of France. So the actual building itself were originally laid down by Madame de Maintenon, not Madame Now, as some people might think, at the request of the Sun King. And we're moving ever closer to his most famous monument, I guess, the Palais de Versailles.
I presume you have a few notes on Versailles. It must be terrific. Yeah. Meanwhile, U18 Emirates continue to set quite a tasty little tempo, all very manageable. We're up to 33 kilometres per hour from the 24, almost visible 24, some barely cafe ride pace, wasn't it, early on? Now it's up to something a little bit more respectable. We'll be up over 45 degrees. Still no real challenge for the riders, and plenty of them back down amongst the cars, presumably collecting rain jackets because the rain is imminent. We are going to have almost inevitably a wet day to conclude. This is one of the challenges, really, isn't it, of bringing races into major urban centres. Heading into the City of Light, it was an amazing idea, wasn't it, back in the mid-1970s, 1975. It was suggested, actually, by a cycling journalist who was working with TF1, the television channel, and he said, why not bring it into Paris, and that'll be Giscard d'Estaing, the French president at the time. So he rubber stamped it pretty quickly, thought it was an absolutely stellar notion. And capital of France, and indeed of the Ile-de-France region, has played host, with one exception, to the Tour de France concluding stage ever since then. There it is.
This is Le Grand Trianon in Versailles, which is the name of originally a village that was bought and then destroyed by Louis XIV, with the aim of building a house on the new lands of his royal domain, which was pretty mean, as to be said. Grand Trianon, loved by Marie Lechinchat, who was the now as the Marie Antoinette estate, so the Petit Trianon is part of that. You also have the Théâtre de la Reine, the Pavillon Français, Pavillon Frais, and then you've got the amateur cyclist over on the left-hand side, and we've also had I think there was an amateur cyclist who rode the climb up to Butte Montmartre 50 times earlier today, Hannah was saying, so cheered on by the ever-amassing crowds. So quite an experience, but quite how he managed to get onto the course before it was shut down, I don't know. Interesting fact I found out, which I hadn't known about, because it started to happen after I left Paris, is that they now shut the Champs-Élysées one Sunday every month to make it an entirely pedestrian zone, and I imagine that must be fantastic as we look down on the centrepiece, the Palais Versailles and its surrounding gardens, which was, I have to say, one of the most beautiful of the venues at the Paris Olympics last year.
Experience. I was at Paris Olympics myself actually last year, and of course so much of it was closed and pedestrianised, and such a feat, such an extraordinary experience, and an odd time to be in Paris, because an awful lot of locals left, and it seemed like the whole city was taken over by visitors, and there was a very different sort of cosmopolitan feel about the place, but an absolutely wonderful atmosphere, and wonderful occasion, wonderful view. That Palace. Have you been to the Palace of Versailles?
I have been. I lived for 5.5 years in Paris, and just hopped on the train out to Versailles on more than one occasion. Usually, though, as is the way with these things, usually when people came to visit, not just of my own volition, I had to have a reason to go there. So yeah, it was. It is spectacular. Truly, I mean, you're spoiled. And the other thing I think that I love about Paris, and I love living over there, was the fact that everything's accessible by walking, really, and you can just walk around the centre so easily, and as a consequence, yeah, jumping on a train out to Versailles, but also very affordable, not an expensive train, with all of the subsidies that are equipped to local transport, and it just, yeah.
And the hard bikes as well. Now, what about French fortunes potentially in this final stage? We caught up with Valentin Marouas ahead of this final stage.
Valentin, ça fait quelque chose de vous voir ce matin, de se dire
Valentin feels special to see you today, and to know that we will see you again.
Ouais, ça fait plaisir, j'ai hâte de pouvoir revenir sur ces routes, forcément. C'était un très bon souvenir, même si là, ça va être différent. C'est une grosse journée. Après 3 semaines de course, ça va être qu'il n'y avait pas la même, mais ça va être un sacré bon moyen, je pense.
Vous avez l'avantage not the same, but it'll be a nice moment. Do you have an advantage over the others with the extra motivation of what you've experienced last year?
Après, surtout connaître un peu le premier tour, les circuits, c'est important. J'essaie d'en parler un peu aux gars dans le bus ce matin, même si ça va être une approche déjà différente.
Peloton, British riders who've graced this event with distinction over the years. Stage winner, of course, in Tour de France. 3 riders on the UAE Team Emirates XRG squad who've taken stage successes in this event. Niels Pollitt being another one, and of course, 21 stage victories in his career when he moved to 22 today. That on it. A couple of Frenchmen here who've enjoyed success. Just 3 riders in this event, though, have tasted glory in and on the Champs-Élysées. Tim Merlier, not among them at the moment. I picked him out there a moment ago, but yeah, Wout van Aert enjoyed it back in 21. And Dylan Groenewegen way back in 2017. And on something of a double, Jordi Meyers. He won in 23. Then, of course, we went off for a bit of a time trial final stage in last year, 24. And Meyers looking to double up in back-to-back Paris finishes. Stuff Eiffel's finest. In the distance, UAE on the front of the peloton. We're heading towards the finishing circuits. The ceremonies at this stage have more or less been complete. I've no doubt that this team will be respected and honoured and given the opportunity to be first across the line into onto Champs-Élysées. The pace is a sparky enough one at the moment, and that will be gratefully accepted by. I suspect the riders actually will be happy enough to get going and head to a conclusion a little bit earlier as well.
Yeah, I would think so, because this final stage sometimes can become a little drawn out, and I think the riders, especially after such a brutal race, are going to want to relax, and for most of them that's been a very long time coming.
I mean, there's no easy Tour de France, and the Tour de France is comfortably or uncomfortably the most difficult stage race of every single season. Having said that, and it does seem as if a lot of riders are saying that the level of fatigue that they're experiencing in this year's Tour is on another scale. Romain Gregoire, speaking to us in advance of yesterday's stage, said he's more tired than he's been after any Grand Tour experience that he's had, including Tour de France. So it's I suppose the characteristic and the way that racing over the path, yeah, control with Brian for that one. Break, so racing is really going to kick off in a little while. But yeah, it does seem as if this has been a particularly brutal edition of the Tour, and riders are quite fatigued.
Of course, abti sab'a sasusak tarmum kalogu mehdam kan jadon abad
the majority going through the bottleneck, but just the odd rider there electing to go to the left.
160 finishers in prospect. 160 started yesterday, and 160 finished, and indeed have started today. So a really pretty. I mean, you talked about that horrible crash for Jasper Philipsen early in the first week, and so we saw something a little bit horrible as well for Ivan Romeo, the youngest rider in the race, the Spanish national champion, up in the break and seemingly in great shape, and then caught out a little bit by the treacherous roads, and he had a pretty heavy impact with sort of quite a high curb when he washed out and hit the. He didn't make it around the corner, but fortunately, or at least fortunately, he was able to get back on his bike, complete the stage, and he's starting today, and looks like he's going to finish the Tour de France. So that's a source of great relief. If you were watching yesterday, I'm sure you were wondering about his prospects for making it to the very end of the third week. It's always a shame, isn't it, when riders are forced to abandon within a day or two of the finish line.
Yeah, I have to say he was the rider I was most looking out for on the start line, to see if he was there and to see what his injuries looked like, and I was really pleased to see he looked okay.
Inside 90 kilometres remaining. Riders making their way through the leafy suburbs of the City of Light, emerging through the avenue and into it's the City of Light. It's a bit gloomy at the moment with these weather conditions, tiptoeing their way down towards these finishing loops, gingerly making their way through. Here's Pollard on the front. Has done immense work indeed for Tadej Pogačar. Many hundreds, if not thousands, of kilometres at this stage, close to or on the front of the peloton on behalf of the overall race leader. All-round team performance, and ultimately they get their just reward. And one wonders what Pogačar has planned for the rest of the year as well. Is there a trip to Spain in prospect? His apparently voracious appetite for race victories has not yet fully been sated. He's remarkable, really, isn't he, in his appetite for race victories. In some compared him to, well, I mean, everyone's comparing him to Eddie Merckx because he's approaching so many of Eddie Merckx's records. Some suggesting already he has the greatest of all time status. Reasons I haven't quite entirely figured out, but there's no doubt he's by some margin, I think, the greatest of his generation. These are the bikes currently employed by the UNOX squad, looking to double up on stage victories at the conclusion of today. But sprint option, they've also got potential attacking option from Jonas Abrahamsson. As you mentioned, his stage victory was one of the most memorable, staying clear with Bauer Schmidt. Again, did fantastic work yesterday, ultimately in vain for Ben O'Connor. Ben O'Connor slipping out of the top 10 after a long chase for Mara Schmidt. Ended up he crashed and he got back in his bike, got back into the group, got back to the front. O'Connor and himself worked away. Didn't quite work out for them in terms of keeping a position in the top 10, but he also might have put the hand up and said, you know, I could have been the most valuable teammate, which is the award that they're giving to Quinn Simmons. It's an interesting idea for an award, and of course, not exactly 100% sure of what the specific criteria is. The judging panel, not even sure of the judging panel were.
No, I don't think there's much information about that, but it's most definitely, as they come into the department of Haute-de-Seine, 92, for those of you who go around France and work out where the people are from due to the number plates. I don't know how they judged it. I just think I think they would, I don't know whether I genuinely don't know whether he knew that it was going to be given as an award at the beginning of this Tour de France. I just wondered if it was one of those things that they just went, oh, we'll chuck that in because Quinn Simmons has been amazing. We want to give Ben Healy the super combative award.
Yes, yeah, I think 100% that. Yeah, and I mean, there were a couple of French riders as well at the hand up made super competitivity. So yes, I mean, that one is because it's judged, it almost inevitably ends up with an absolutely fabulous image that is. The words line, the crowd seeming really experienced set throughout France once again.
I think that is the very hill that I reached my top speed on descending when I stood in Paris. I think this is between Meudon and Chaillot. That was on a bike. I think it was 65 kilometers an hour.
And definitely not in excess of the speed limit.
I have a feeling it might have been in excess of the speed limit. Yeah. Of course.
So in your mindset, this is going to be a real race. You feel already the speed. This is not going to be a walk in the park. Get ready for it. Get the focus on. Once we hit the circuit, the race will really be on.
It's important, isn't it, that the riders do need to switch on. Already, I'm sure some of them are thinking that it's time to relax. Geraint Thomas among them, I suspect. Welsh Dragon back in the main peloton, cruising around to try and complete his final Tour de France. For Caden Groves and one or two others, not least, of course, Tim Merlier, if you see our Quick Step squad, he's going to need to be fully focused and the team fully ready, because a relative promenade through to the finishing circuit means that the legs as well might take a little while to switch on, albeit we have seen increased tempo set by the UAE squad, and that of course will help to warm the muscles a little bit. So what about Wout van Aert? Many people's pick for glory today.
Well, this is the last one, but not the normal one in the Champs-Élysées. What do you think about today's stage?
Yeah, for sure. It's different than other years with the new course we will do. The more master climb will definitely change the race. But yeah, until now it's been still a bit the same, like riding into Paris. The hardest stage is still behind us, and I think everyone looks forward to finish today.
What's the best thing to do today to stay safe, not taking any risk, or maybe you want to try to do something?
Try both. Well, for sure, I want to stay safe, and hopefully we don't have to take crazy risk. But yeah, it's can be a good opportunity for me to win the stage. So for sure, we'll still try.
You have to try in the first climb, or maybe on the third climb, very close from the finish line. What's the best?
Yeah, I will follow my feeling.
Thank you, Rod. Good luck.
We usually announce it on social media in advance, but he's following his feeling today, and I suppose that's what you've got to do with social media. Yeah, in some ways, the way to stay safe on that circuit is to actually be out front, so an attacking option might just serve two purposes for Wout van Aert. I mentioned Lara Schmitz, the Swiss National Road Race champion, down the back of the bunch at the moment. Tough day out for him yesterday. Second place by Aaron Nose. Yeah, for me personally, I think my big standout memory from this, well, naturally stage 6 and Ben Healy's glorious victory and national pride swelling the chest there with that one. Of course, a couple of days in yellow for Ben and that long range attack on the day that Simon Yates took the win on the road to Le Mans d'Or Puy de Sancy. But it was another great day out for Ben Healy as well. That is a bit of a standout for me, albeit not quite getting the big day out for victory, but it was an absolutely fabulous success on Mont Ventoux for Valentin Paré-Pontre. Victory for the home nation. Sensational stage, wonderful setting. And this man, of course, certainly lit the race up, didn't he? 2 stage victories for Thymen Arensman, the first Dutchman to take 2 summit victories in Tour de France since Peter Winnen back in the early 80s. Mont Ventoux stage for me, I think, probably a bit of a standout.
Yeah, and that's what makes any stage up Mont Ventoux is special, and that they use it sparingly. I think that's one of the wonderful things about the Tour de France and the organisers and the race route when it's decided. As we see here, I mean, 51 kilometres an hour, it feels like the intensity of the racing's gone up. And we've still got 85.1 kilometres to go. They're on a slight descent at the moment, coming past, as we will do in a moment. They're relaying the turf on the Stade Jean-Bouin, next door to the Parc des Princes. Still, for me, one of the best. I actually think it's the best stadium in Paris, and I've only ever been there to watch rugby being played. And
do you wish they'd stayed there?
I oft have discussions with French friends about the fact that I think the French team would have lost less matches playing at the Parc des Princes, even though they would have only got 45,000. I think it's the capacity there in, as opposed to the 85,000 at the Stade de France. I just think it's an old concrete stadium. The noise is something else in there with the crowd in full tilt. I think they probably should have stayed there, but in the era of bigger means better and ticket sales and more money. I suppose there was no alternative decision to be made.
Cauldron atmosphere in the Parc des Princes back in the day. Support of Les Bleus. And play a bit of soccer ball there as well, I guess, these days.
Yeah, it's Paris Saint-Germain have been there for a number of years, and they have had huge success over the course of the last 2 decades, really, ever since they had an injection of cash.
This Jonas Rickard going for another Competitivity Award. He got his wish, didn't he, on getting to stand on the Tour de France podium. Went north with Matthew Van Der Poel, and Van Der Poel for what would have been a sensational success. He managed to fend off the sprinters behind on that occasion. If he has plans for something similar today. Observatoire de Paris. The Paris Observatory, built in the 17th century, they tell me.
Well, just a matter of 3 kilometres, or just under 3 kilometres, in fact, just over 2 now, until the official entrance into the Paris metropolitan area.
Normally, the honour of the first team onto the Champs-Elysees is the team of the rider who's on their way to collect the final yellow jersey, and that's normally what we see. But if Jonas Ricard just going to cruise off the front and head to the Champs-Elysees ahead of them, a little situation here for disappointment as well for the AbisPICTURES squad that they lost Jasper Philipsen. So their A-list sprinter did take the glory and did take the yellow jersey on day one, of course. Matthew van der Poel, unfortunately, departing the fray after his wonderful performance on stage 2 as well. They won the first 2 stages of the race. Can they win the last 2 stages? Can Caden Groves make it an unlikely double? It would be a remarkable achievement on the kind of form that he's on. And we saw yesterday, he's a sensational all-round bike rider, isn't he? He's a proper classics man. He can get up the climbs extremely well. But also he can sprint like few others in the race. Potentially, if it's a challenging climb for the likes of Tim Merlier or Jonathan Milan, Caden Groves could be on a double. It would be a neat symmetry, wouldn't it, if the AbisPICTURES squad were to win the first 2 stages of the race and the last 2.
It would be an extraordinary symmetry, in fact, but I'm not sure it's going to happen. I think it's a long shot.
Yeah, you can be quite certain that Jonathan Milan and friends are pretty committed to staying in there. That was La Seine Milan Musical. One of the more recent examples of wonderful French architecture.
That's the entrance onto the island in Issy-les-Moulineaux, which is taking me back to when I used to work down here.
A long time, of course, it was where the ASO were based that run the race.
That's right.
So teams and riders making plans. Heading towards Paris.
لما أنت تقول لك أنت تريك نقول ولا في قمة
whenever I went across to for a walk during a lunch break or something, I used to go look at this bit of sculpture, and I just found it quite curious, sort of Mondrian style colours employed there. I wouldn't say it was ever a piece of art that I got particularly enamored with, but it certainly has its own interest.
Through very shortly to Champs-Elysees, the weekend traffic, seemingly oblivious to world's biggest bike race and one of the world's biggest sporting events, certainly France's biggest annual sporting event.
But that's going underneath the périphérique, so they're always busy.
The unofficial Grand Prix of France that takes place pretty much all day, every day on the périphérique. Well, thanks very much, Jonathan, for your contribution. We look forward to hearing from you a little bit later in the show as well. Welcome back, Brian Smith from Japan. Been watching with fascination and interest. This one hasn't exactly lit up as a bike race yet, but certainly the pace has been faster than we're used to seeing at this point in the proceedings.
Yeah, I don't think I've been watching with fascination. I was very relaxed there and just took a little bit of a break, like most have done. But yeah, you had Tom Steele's first out quick step, just telling his riders to stay focused. That that's what you have to do. If you've got a potential winner, and you know they do have a potential winner in Tim Merlier today, so you have to remain as your winner, as focused as you can. And too many teams can kind of fall asleep a little bit, but I think as we get close to the Champs-Elysees, like you already mentioned, that the team of Teddy Pogacar will come up and lead them on to across the line and let the race commence. And by the sound of things, the race will go on. Different finish this year. It's not just up and down the Champs-Elysees. We go over Montmartre, and that brings another kind of dimension into things. And hopefully, you know, we had rain earlier on. We still got damp roads, but hopefully everything will be okay. So we're just going to hear up and out to see where the time will be taken. I don't want this to be just a kind of promenade and, you know, the GC taken too early in this race, because I really want to see a bit of a spectacle.
Soler controls the front of the peloton on behalf of the overall race leader and winner in waiting. Man in yellow, Tadej Pogacar, heading towards a fourth victory in this event, becoming, as he does, as he will do, the youngest rider to achieve a particular distinction. His teammates, Tim Wellens, coming back from the cars and making his way very shortly up front. The Eiffel Tower looming in the distance. I'll tell them that they're heading towards the centre of the city. And
no, I'm just listening to you and John talking about, you know, stages and, you know, things that happen during the tour. Very difficult to pick it. Even yesterday,
standout race, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's. For a sprinter to win like that, you know, he's so upset with it all, and there's some been incredible finishes. The ding dong battles that were going up, the Mont Ventoux. It's incredible. I've never seen racing like that about a final mountain where they're all going at each other and racing each other. It was incredible. You know, obviously as a Scot, seeing Oscar on there gave me something of pride. With you being Irish and Ben Healy, nice to see that Ben Healy, because I thought it might have gone to Giguin, and it's nice to see that Ben Healy's taken the most combative, and he becomes the second Irishman to do that.
Was it Dan?
Yeah, I thought you'd know that, Declan. Come on, 2018.
Martin, yeah, twice in the top 10, wasn't he, in Tour de France, Dan Martin. And another man as well who scored stage honours. So Ben Healy, what a few weeks for him that he's had, and what's going to happen to him in the future. It's going to be interesting to see exactly where riders go and how they develop, what it means to them in their career. EF Education Easy Bow squad there. They came in looking for stage honours. They've come out with a decent GC performance as well. One of the teams that will be happy enough. A few teams in there still trying to get something out of the race. You know, you talk about potentially sort of stopping the GC and taking the time early in this stage, but still, I think there are an awful lot of teams and riders that are going to be fully invested in trying to produce a win today.
We'll go through them quickly. UAE members, great. Red Bull, Bora Hansgrohe, white jersey. Movistar, very disappointed they will not even a team competition this year. Visma Leasebike, very happy with their situation. Lido Trek, the green jersey. Decathlon, well, would they be happy with their fifth in general classification? I think yes. Soudal Quickstep, yep, with their stage wins. Groupama FDJ, well, I think very disappointing in this race. Is one of the main in France. Cofidis, well, they struggle through the tour. Having the Dennis and apart from a couple of stage finishes, Taconi, Laude, really good Tour de France. EF Education, you've already mentioned, brilliant. Intermarché Wanty, just bubbles under, in my view. Tour de Pro Cycling, I've animated, but I've got nothing to show for their endeavours. Total Energies, possibly saved by Gigat. Bahrain victorious, under the radar for a lot of it. Jacob Lula, big stage win, saved their tour from Ben O'Connor. Picnic posted out, Oscar only fourth. Israel Premier Tech, chapping at the door, getting involved with the racing, but again getting nothing. Akir B&B Hotels, just nowhere to be seen a lot of the times. Okay, getting in some breaks and things like that, but that's about it. And these Grenadiers, I would say very disappointing, but they won 2 stages, but they're better than that. They've won this race so many times, and then Lotto, disappointing, Uno-X, brilliant.
Speed's picked up a little bit. I'll have to go some to get it up over that 40 kilometres an hour, but I think it's going to happen, and I think either way, it's not going to pare back the average speed to less than 41.1 kilometres per hour. So I think it's fairly certain now we're going to have the fastest ever edition of the Tour de France, and the racing has certainly borne that fact out, and that fact, I suppose, is also further evidence of just how demanding this Tour de France has been.
Apart from the promenade start to this stage, we've only had one stage where it wasn't slow. The stage into the cup, but the only stage where there was no real kind of breakaway. So no real surprise, but also these guys are fitter and fitter. More sports science behind them, nutrition, all this sort of stuff, and even when it comes down to equipment, throughout the stages, we've been throwing up graphics of the bikes and what they're using, and everything, and even over 20 years, last 20 years, and
stellar change.
Yeah, everything's changed. It's all down to the details now, and everything keeps on changing. And it's just no surprise that they've all got faster. In fact, the UCI are looking at ways to slow everybody down. They just got so fast.
The pace is absolutely stunning that they're racing at, but they're not accumulating fatigue in the same way. Okay, they're accumulating across the 3 weeks. They're tired now, but they're capable of riding all day, every day, because of the levels.
They're looking after, before most riders maybe over 100 days of racing. Now they're like 80 days of racing, so they're coming into races hot and racing every day. Before, when you look at it, even their very own Sean Kelly, when you look at the amount of races he was doing all over the place, there's a lot of fatigue. Yeah, so there's a lot. So it's they're racing full on. Nutrition, as I said, bikes, clothing, everything is just making them faster and faster.
This race is getting faster and faster, that's for sure. A little bit of room for the riders to express themselves at the moment. The roads are dry, so that's good to see, albeit we feel confident, given the reports we're getting from Montmartre.
We're getting some information from Hannah that it was heavy rain on Montmartre. Can't see any evidence of it in Paris for the moment. Of course, when I skipped off for a break, the roads got damp. When I came back after 30 kilometres, guess what? It's dried out.
Yeah, drying out pretty quickly. So that's something about midsummer, isn't it? That at least there's a potential for the weather conditions to potentially change and the grip levels to go up. A nice little ramp out for them. Could be a little bit of a pinch point at the moment.
I'm surprised. I'm not too sure if they're allowed photographers there, but it's definitely an opportunist moment.
Yeah, to live and past the extraordinary pyramids built in the 20th century, in 1989, I believe, that pyramid was presented in the centre of the Napoleon courtyard. Chinese-American architect Yeo Ming Kai created that under a commission organised by President Mitterrand. What a symbol it is. Talk about moving the Mona Lisa, isn't it? The Gioconda, it's been suggested. It's just a little bit too small a space these days, and they need to. Just millions and millions of people want to walk past that particular painting. Hard to get them in. It's all a bit of a stuffy atmosphere, apparently. Sensational piece of architecture. Yeah, we end up on the wrong side of the bollards here. People spilling out left and right, and riders starting to make their presence felt close to the front. Teams have been routed a different way. They're going to take up position in the cavalcade behind. Just one car, I think, supporting the riders on the Montmartre circuit as well. That's a complicated one to police and organise.
Yeah, it's normal when we come onto the circuit. And of course, the team car, what I used to do is, they used to kind of stop in the Place de la Concorde, just on the right-hand side where the buses were. I know I did it. I know I got my son round, so I jumped out the car and put my son in for a lap, something that not many people get to experience. So yeah, you get a lot of that. The cars will just pull over, jump in the car and do a lap, and another one guest will jump in. So yeah, it's something else. But we are coming up to the traditional part of the race where the leaders team will lead the race over the line, and then after that we will see the race commence. So this is, again, there's been a lot of new developments, and even now there's a little bit of a new development because the whole team of UE Team Emirates have been allowed to ride slightly off the front for the first time across.
Yeah, this is not an attack. This is just part of the symbolism and the heritage and the tradition of Tour de France. So it's going on in the wake of the big, powerful German rider, Lewis Hollis. And what a great moment for him, as he will take the like fan out across the road and just welcome the entire peloton, led by the team of the overall race leader, Tadej Pogačar. Along Place de la Concorde and up onto the finish line, and everybody wants to soak up the atmosphere. Long 3 weeks right for the Frenchman in France on home roads. What an experience. 6 laps to go. 3 of them are the longer loop that includes the Route Montmartre.
Yeah, we get the Champs-Élysées 6.8 kilometres this lap, and then the bigger lap 16.8 we've got to finish on. But this race is getting, especially this last day, is just evolving the whole time. That's the first time I've seen the whole team being allowed off the front like that, and we saw teams coming up and different celebrations and picture opportunities. Well, that was a great opportunity, and I'd say a bit of respect from the rest of the peloton.
And they drop back as the peloton makes plans for the first of the attacks. Should they have gone maybe for 6 climbs of Montmartre? That certainly would have shaken it up a little bit. That is, again, a little bit of a shake. It's this little first opportunity to savour the finale here. Back on Paris roads at the conclusion of Tour de France, the Olympics, of course, last year, meaning that they had to go elsewhere for the final stage, time trial, but back in Paris, it seems like the rightful home of this race, and they've shaken it up slightly. He hasn't gone for the rainbow bandage on his left arm today. He's gone for an all-black affair.
Right, who's the first interloper there? I saw Bahrain victorious coming up, and Cofidis coming up as well. So let's see who are the riders going on the attack. Looks like Soudal Quickstep, unauthorized Mobility, Arkea B&B Hotel, CF Education Easy Post.
I can sense the finish of Tour de France, and what a thrill as these riders just want to get involved and want perhaps to create a scenario where they're clear. You see the outriders as well. It's a beautiful chevron formation ahead of the race and ahead of the cyclists at the moment, Uno X on the attack. They promised they would.
Well, it's good to see him here, isn't it? He's come into this race as a rider that we're expecting. I think he was touted by some riders at some stages as a rider that was probably one of the favourites for a few stages in this tour, but he's probably done a bit of a longer list. We heard from him yesterday as well that he was possibly up there as one of the favourites, but he said himself he just hasn't been well, so nice to see Magnus Cort there.
Yeah, great start of the season, a string of victories in Spain and elsewhere, and Magnus Cort is leading solo for the moment, but, well, Quinn Simmons almost inevitably is on the attack. The middle track rider given him an opportunity to race out front and maybe give Jonathan Milan, and indeed more particularly his other teammates. A little bit of respite in the main peloton. They'll follow in the wheels that others chase. Nothing yet fully establishing itself. The race is on now. Inside 12 kilometres to the final intermediate sprint of Tour de France 2025, albeit that is of little consequence. The green jersey destined for the shoulders on the final podium of Jonathan Mila. Thundering down from the Arc de Triomphe, Magnus Court, visited by the entire peloton. It's all got a bit busy. Simmons, as they thunder down here, it is. They come down a relatively steep ramp actually from the Arc de Triomphe.
Oh, it's gripping your way up. When you ride it, especially the car as well. You know, everybody says that they come in Paris, you start racing, and all of a sudden the legs just go. It's that concentration levels that we were, Tom Steele was saying. You expect it to be easy, and it's not. It's harder than you think. So
تنظرينا لما أنت لو ما عملت تشعني شلون حمشن إنترمارشي بينيام قديف كاخلهم تتعاوت درجة بدي حيتهم قدام الدوز الكا إذا تمام كيف كم تي على دينا تقدر تناقن إن next عملت بينيام قرماي بس لوتو مثلني.
At the end of the day, will it be a group? Will it be a solo rider? Will it be a small group? Will it be an extended?
زيادة عن معواتن تستاهل. أبدو ما عمل زرانة وتودي فرنسي نايجانتا حيل سنين. ما عرف عندي حيل خمسة ما عرف عندي ولا نصاب عاد عندي كاسني. نايجانتا بعدين ديلو هيش ما عرف عندي كم ده حشكاس. رينا رويسي أبينيان رينا مسحاب ومسبقات ومسحيل كله. ناب حنزات نفرق بهو إنرجي رايسي. ناب بولاتهم في قبل رايكاله. مثل عملت كل مس لوتون تقرني في بيان لوتون عباي كانتا مزحات دي أو سنالو نوح مثل كانتا إن شاء الله بين good up comment good luck بينيام قرماي لكم صحافة
looking to improve on a second place finish from day one for Biniam Girmay. It's over a year now since he has tasted glory. It was a long victory drive for the Eritrean. What an occasion, what a venue for him to end that long delay since his last win.
Just reflect right now of confidence. Just saw the graphic come up there with the speed that he was going at. So he's one of the riders that can sprint in some kind of lumpy finals, like right now, but again, confidence have been very disappointing in this race.
It has an 11th place finish from one of the group finishes in this year's tour, but as you say, Cofidis have really not, they've been sort of fairly anonymous really, and the loss of Brian Coquard on stage 14, not starting back on stage 14, has made their chances of getting the victory today altogether slimmer, and that's why we're seeing a little bit of a venture earlier on. Absolutely lined out in pursuit of lowrider up front from the Cofidis squad. Ben Healy, not surprisingly, showing towards the front on the flat roads, not waiting for Boutmont Matre to make his presence felt at the front of the peloton.
كبرات تغطاتي حدش channel ناي سبورت channel مسموعان كل جديد لا تقلقنا خدمتينا كواهم جن كم سبسكرايب زي جبوركم سبسكرايب جبورو كم سبسكرايب زي جبوركم ها لايك شير نا جبوركم نزا حدش channel تابعنا بخبري نحكي
But he wants a little bit of this today, and place to be when they arrive into that complicated circuit is the way to stay safe and pursue some stage glory.
Jonas Ricker again saw him in a run-in. A lot of riders down the back, they're just looking at maybe seeing friends and family at the side now and just want to get this over with. But there's still a lot of interest, still a big stage to win for a lot of these teams. And a lot of riders super motivated to get something out of today's stage here in Paris. I was wondering when they were going to come.
Yeah. Patrouille de France. Got the right buttons, haven't they? They've got the right smoke trails. Tricolore.
That's the shot every year.
Frozen.
So the smoke trail. Pick up the riders and you blink and you miss it. You look away and there's for a moment. Oh, and that's going to be a long, long ride now for Ben O'Connor. He's already slipped out of 10th place in general classification. Presumably he'll pick up a wheel relatively quickly. And let's hope he's going to be able to make his way back onto the Peloton. Plenty of time to do it, albeit I don't think they're going to be hanging around for him.
Sizable group now. I think Abrahamson is there, there's Trago.
Santiago the Trago tried in the mountains, the Colombian rider for the Bahrain Victoria squad. Lenny Martinez, of course, their standout competitor in terms of visibility for his wonderful run in the points class in the King of the Mountains classification for quite a while. And for the Charlie Jenkins for pointing out that it's not Lenny Martinez, it's Lenny Martinez. It's his wife's maiden name, Martinez, and he pops it every time I say it. So he's implored us to get that pronunciation correct. Grateful for the heads up. A bit of a split at the front, and Picnic Post Donnell not involved. All hands to the pump here. There's always a sort of a Kermesse feel about this final stage, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Sigeri there for Confidence. Luis Aske there for the Groupama. Marco Haller, Abrahamson stage winner. I don't think anything will be allowed to go as normal. Sometimes we do, and normally we come into Paris, we get a small breakaway, and then they're dragged back in the last lap. And we get that renowned sprints come the end. But today they're expecting a little bit of a difference with the Montmartre line. I still think it will be a sprint in the end of potentially majority of this peloton. We've got 160 riders, but yeah, let's see what happens as we head out to this new dimension of this last stage.
By to the wonderful fair display. Hello to Obama, PJ on the front of the Peloton. For now, at any rate, potentially off the front, as we've said. It's their 6 long years since they tasted glory. Again, it would be a Tour de France save for them were they to get the victory on the final day. Vincent Martensdijk is rolling along. Last wheel. Last wheel, Maro Schmitz.
He's suddenly advanced at Martensdijk. Yeah, the longest name in this peloton. Oh, really? Yeah, there's no target first name there. 8.6 to the finish line again, at which point we'll distribute some Green jersey points. So for Shannon again, just giving Nelson Powers there. Mechanicals at the back, we saw another Aussie here, Storer. Quite often we see this in this.
Good luck, Vinny. Good luck, Erica.
A stressful conclusion because, again, as I say, nobody wants to get delayed on the final day. Michael Storer, Australian, Tudor Pro Cycling. He's done quite a bit of attacking in the mountains. It's not necessarily his happiest of hunting grounds on this particular terrain, but I think he'd like to be there for the Route Montmartre element of this. The way things are looking, it's going to be complicated. Got a jersey gravitating close to the front. Wout van Aert, though, conspicuous by his presence at the back. No advantage for Abrahamsen ahead of the main peloton. It's another finger tracking close to the front, and Tadej Pogacar not so far away. Is there a little bit of a plan for the GC contenders to join something a little bit special? Well, Jonas Vingegaard, I think, here doing a little bit of work for Wout van Aert, for the Visma bike team in particular, and the man's second overall in Tour de France 2025. Just sees that they, well, I think thinking maybe that they don't want to let anything off the front that looks a bit dangerous, and Neilson Powless has looked very strong, hasn't he, in a series of attacks. Santiago Petrago as well, one of the potential opportunity. Neilson Powless. It's a matter of a few meters, but this pace is rocket-like. It's approaching 60 kilometers an hour on the flatter elements, well north of 50k an hour here.
Normally something goes. As soon as you come on in the first couple of laps, something goes, but nothing is going now. It's just so fast.
Is that because of Montmartre? Has that somehow affected the nature of the racing here, that they're not letting an easy group go away? Because actually there are more people here that believe that it's possible that it won't be a usual traditional sprint finish.
Possibly. But I don't, maybe it's the unknown as well, like you say. They don't want anything to go. They want to use, the Montmartre part of this course to their advantage. Of course, we're just coming up to the last intermediate sprint of the Tour de France. Jonathan Milan doesn't want to take anything, but he has that green jersey, and he'll just go and follow. Maybe nip a few points.
Biniam Grma Jonathan Milan abro tahizu ጽቡቅ ቦታ ሐዘ ይመስል
to get some more points, because it's not just first place. Of course, they get the green jersey on the podium, but Abrahamsen as well. They're looking for the minor places in this competition.
But Jonathan Milan wants to take it. He wants to show that he is the king of the points competition, and that was
I think it's not just look. I am the green jersey shaking the hand from Abrahamsen, but yeah. Reynard goes again for confidence in front.
Does it also signal perhaps that Jonathan Milan's not so confident of his ability to last through the competition?
Biniam Grma bola tagiyor zaten sgedi fuar. Natus zagad sota modata. Zallah
Yeah, but I think when I was here, it was quite easy. He only made a small effort, maybe opened up the legs a little bit. Now we get Captain America on the front here. Lipovic in the white jersey also up towards the front now.
Fitzsimmons on the attack, and Kirby has joined us here in the commentary position as this starts to wind up nicely into a very, very exciting conclusion to Tour de France.
No surprise to see Quinn Simmons have a dig. Waiting for the General Combativity Award. They've already decided on it, Brian, but will it be him? No, they gave it to Ben Healy.
Did they? Oh.
But they gave Quinn Simmons a Best Teammate Award. I'm sure you've discussed it, but the very fact that they've utilised today, to me,
it kind of says, well, there's a lot more opportunities up for grabs because you may as well go all in, Brian. There's no fear of losing any positions overall.
Yeah, just if you can just confirm that for us, Carlton.
Yeah, neutralised.
No. We're still racing for the stage, but
yes.
You could just explain.
Okay, they've decided because of the rain, which has fallen upon upon Montmartre, and it is cobblestones, many of which have been worn down over the years. They decided that the surface may well become unstable, and as a result, they thought that if any incident befell anybody out here, notwithstanding the 3 kilometre rule, you understand, then it might well indeed just hamper some of those who would find themselves losing time on a day where really that's not supposed to be the done thing. This is the climb up to Montmartre. You're looking at it right now. And with damp cobbles, it just adds sketchiness into the entire procedure. And as a result, we want to be able to enjoy the spectacle of the drive for a stage win without having to worry about the ill effects that it might have because of the damp surface and the rough, unpredictable surface on the general classification. Isabella getting himself a puncture at this pace. It's a very bad time to have it. Just coming down into the Place de Concorde yet again, and there's a few others as well. Benjamin Thomas, likewise, they're shilly-shally over towards the Seine. They'll then scream down towards the head of the tunnel. They go under that, and then, of course, supposedly coming back, you might think, to the Place de Concorde. But, Brian, we are visiting Montmartre as part of a redesign. They pulled it over from the Olympics, thought that looked pretty good. We need to make something just a little bit different on our grand finale, and as a result, that's what we're playing with today. We're visiting it 4 times.
Yeah, we're going into the unknown for this. Everybody knows that they come into the Champs-Élysées, we go up and down on this circuit of 6.8 kilometres, but it's just going to add another element. So the GC time will be taken at some point during this stage, but the race will go on for the stage, and now we're seeing Lipovitz and Quinn Simmons on the attack.
8 seconds. He's got an awful lot of ground to make up there in the overall, but I think Lipovitz just full of the joys of the Tour de France, quite frankly. The young German has sparked up interest back in his homeland, and love, really, I guess you might say, in the Tour, and a real prospect for the general classification. Now, normally we would be, of course, taking our turn and visiting Jeanne d'Arc and turning left constantly, but slight amendment, Brian. We are visiting Montmartre, and we're going to go over the finish line again in a few moments' time, and then we'll be heading into the Butte de Montmartre itself to enjoy, for the first time of asking so far this race. This will still be a left-hander. There's Jeanne d'Arc, used to have a halo, that seems to have gone these days, but they've been out with the gold leaf. They've done the flag, still waiting to do the horse. They take a left here on what used to be, was it Norway corner or Danish corner?
Norway used to be in that corner.
There we are. Tor Usoft, I remember, just used to give him the wave. Eddie Voss as well was also somebody that would be screamed around. Just passing by here, W.H. Smith, we can get Sunday papers. That was a long time ago, Brian. And then we'll do a little shilly-shally into the Place de Concorde, where we head by the FIA headquarters. Different form of racing. I guess equally as popular, globally you might say. And here we are, the intermediate sprint. Guess who? Jonathan Milan gets 20 points. As it should be, Brian. There should be a fast man in green in this race.
There should be, and whether he gets to sprint out for the win at the end of the stage, we'll have to wait. But he's already won that green jersey, but it's just a case of picking a few points off and showing everybody that green jersey is his.
The obelisk. Stork. Owl. Cat, lamp. And we all know what that is. 50 kilometres. You know me and hieroglyphics, mate. We go back a long time. 11 seconds to the Peloton right now. There's a sense of urgency here. Julian Alaphilippe is there. Just one of those that I think will have been brought into the consciousness of those who would pick somebody for today.
Look, there's a bit of unknown. I think we're talking to Wolf Van Aert earlier as well. He's up for this one. Of course, he's already won in our sprints. But there's others. I think Picnic Poster now are going with Lund instead of Bittner today, so possibly they think it might be a little bit selective.
quick look inside the Peloton. This is what Little Trek are on board today, and they've had a great race, I must admit. Their battle plan, of course, was to come here and do damage for the green jersey, and indeed, battle successful. Matis Kilmos was their man for the overall, but a crash, unfortunately, saw him out of the race. Likewise, Eddie Dunbar, unfortunately, from this one. We've lost a few. Those who've made it here, because it's been neutralised today, if there are any incidents, their overall classification will indeed stay exactly as it is. But the final stage of the Tour de France, Brian Smith, is a fabulous thing to have on your palmares. Everyone would quite like it, and there's more riders, perhaps, than usual that have got a chance today because of Montmartre being part of the circuit.
Yeah, it adds a different element to it. So it's the sprinters normally have the day they call this the World Championships for sprinters. There's other races, of course, but all the sprinters want to win today. But there's some punchier riders that are maybe interested in this one, so it kind of opens the door not just to the sprinters. We heard from Tom Steels in the way from Soudal Quickstep. I know there've been Tim Merlier who can sprint to victory here in the one first stage in this year's tour, but it does switch on a lot of other riders.
Dwelling on Tim earlier, and speaking to Tim earlier, was Soudal Quickstep, who said, guys, keep your focus. This is our day. It could well be fine.
It could be. I think that would be going out to every team. Every team knows that there's an opportunity today. Normally, the Champs-Élysées comes down to just the sprinters, but like with the circuit in Montmartre, it just opens it up. You know, you're talking about, you know, possibly being, well, I've said the Groupama haven't really had a great tour. Greg Waugh, I know he was up there yesterday and crashed, but they've got a few kind of punchier riders that might decide that Montmartre suits them a little bit better than possibly easy. Tudor Pro Cycling there as well.
Monster.
You know, Alaphilippe, you know, opens up.
Yeah, why not? Let's see. Trentin looked lively yesterday as well. Possibly did a bit too much, but would have thought about it today. Just turn your mind back to Harrogate. You probably would have preferred rain. And look at the screen bias here as you come by the Arc de Triomphe, where they have carved in the names of all the battles, all the triumphant battles, of course, that Napoleon was involved with. I once asked somebody, I can't see Waterloo written on there. And they just darkly said, it's about triumph. Yes, yes. Oh, well, it is about the win today, of course. Quinn Simmons and Florian Liebkitz, our young rider classification leader. Look at that. You can see described by the biceps and indeed the forearms, the rough surface that we're dealing with. They put a light skim of asphalt over this in the 1960s. Do you know why? No. It's to stop the students picking up the cobbles and throwing them at the police. There we are. It's all been strong students. Yeah, they were. And pretty big stairs as well. But yes, during the student riots of the 1960s, subjugated rather cruelly, I must say. But anyway, moving on. The asphalt lick that they put over the top has gradually, over the years, worn down, showing the original cobbles underneath. They've since been worn smooth, which explains why they have decided to neutralise the day, just in case it got skittery, and everyone found it. Here we go. .47 kilometres to go, and indeed we pile into this one. 12 seconds. You don't want to have a technical right now, Brian.
No, you don't want it any time at all when the race is on and it comes. But we see it time and time again when coming up to Champs-Élysées that there's often these punctures and things like that. But look, look at the serious faces. You know, they're all serious about this. They're all going to go around this lap and then head out, which it could be very, very tricky. But luckily, by the sounds of things, it's dry.
Paddle, rabbit, eye, Rona. More on hieroglyphics later on, or maybe not. 46.3 kilometres until we get home. 11 seconds only now, separating a highly motivated peloton. And look, just about everybody wants a piece of this day. Why not? We may actually see some of the quieter sprinters, Brian, going loud.
Yeah, there's a few sprinters that maybe taking away the likes of Milan, Merlier, maybe some of those. then it does open the door to maybe something like Tobias Lunch and, you know, maybe your Ackermans and things like that. You almost your second tier. No disrespect to any of these guys, but they aren't as fast as the Milan and kind of Merle and things like that when it comes down to this maybe traditional finish here in the Champs-Elysees, but they can go with some of the punches that are going to be thrown at them when we get to Montmartre. Again, on the left-hand side, you can see Visma Leserberg looking after Wout van Aert. You got Tudor Pro Cycling. You got a mix that believes that this element that's been thrown into the Paris circuit is going to benefit them.
Here we go then. We take this big turn. It's an unfamiliar one, just about to engage with. Destination Montmartre. The Martyrs Mount is where we are ultimately going to be heading. Still taking a left-hander here, however, with 45 kilometers to go. When do we get to the Pic de Montmartre for the first time, Brian?
عزبتي 45 كيلومتر تريفون هذا بقى بحسب ينزلوا عباي وجلس كم زيادة للناس أنا إيش في اللي يعني حسيت خليت متفلي ما لكم كده جروب بتعمي زجرم صوتها يزله أما تروش حاوز يكون صوتها هنقينا سبسكرايب أي نعمة شير لايك أي نعمة قدك عبيت.
To know an absolutely spectacular restaurant, by the way, and it's on Montmartre itself, the Relais Gascogne. We might actually, I believe, approach it on our little climb to get to the Route de Montmartre itself. So I'll point it out for you. And if you're going to go there, have what, a salad fraîcheur. And you think, I don't want a salad. Brian's already looking at me like, I don't want a salad. You want that, Brian. It's got sliced potatoes, hot on, but it's a hot salad. It's absolutely gorgeous. Stick with it. Here we go then. This is where we turn just in that little that little section between the FIA headquarters, and there is Montmartre up on the top of the hill there. You can see it. There's the domed cathedral itself. We used to have a little apartment just at the foot of it. In fact, Rue de Steinkirk at the top. If you ever want to go and knock on the door and say, it's not dirty in. No, sold it a long time ago. Meanwhile, 44 kilometres to go before we get there. Past the temple, there's the little Miele mustard shop just on the right-hand side here. And if you want to buy a little macaron, then it's just in the corner as we come up where the red car is about now. I know this place, man. Been through a long time. 15 years later. Not in the temple itself, obviously. That's just be promotion, didn't it? Possibly £2 even for me, Brian. But anyway, it's a beautiful mosaic work, I've got to say, on the floor here. Brian was saying, get back to this. Let's get back to it. Thankfully. But while we're dwelling on it, here we are. And all of a sudden, guess what? Are they getting greedy? Are they getting grossly greedy?
It was phenomenal stage one yesterday, so emotional for him. And he's another rider that's, okay, he's had a third. He won solo yesterday. Not many sprinters could say that in the Tour de France stage. But just to confirm that GC time has already been taken, it was taken the fourth time across the line. But everybody will continue because the stage went up for grabs and just opens the door up to many other riders. But this is all about being positioned when we hit the climb of Montmartre. And Hannah's already been there. We showed us pictures. Everybody's excited. And I think one thing is, because everybody normally goes to the Champs-Elysees and it's normally 10, 12 deep. Well, I think the atmosphere, especially when you saw the Olympics last year, it was magnificent on Montmartre, and today looks just as good.
Well, we're just about to take a little turn and head up towards it. Other seabirds are available. Julien Alaphilippe is going to make a statement today, no matter what. Win or lose, he'll be at the pointy end at least once over Montmartre.
He will be. He's got Mark Haller there, and they're the ones that are taking this on. They're really going to go for this one. I think Mark Hirschi as well. I think the two of them will be looking at it, but it's just a sheer pace now. I think even Caden Groves can't hold the wheel.
He can't. I don't think he wants to at the moment. Maybe he will be part of a group that pushes on. They're eating into this one. Don't be surprised either if the European champion Trentin, who was so busy in the break the other day, I was thinking surely he must be holding himself back for this. Well, maybe he was when he backed out of it. Let's wait and see. They've got cards to play. And at the moment, they're showing their hand ever so slightly. The climb goes on, Brian, heading ever inexorably up to Montmartre.
Yeah, that was Mark Halfer. Then you get Marco Haller and then Caden Groves. He cannot just hesitate to let the wheel go. But Tudor Pro Cycling in the black, well, they've been trying for so many days to try and get something out of the Tour de France. They did a good go
with Michael Storer, but they're the ones that really want to ignite this one.
Well, let's see. 3, 2, 1 ignition. Somebody's going to go up and over the top the Côte de la Route de Montmartre. We don't come up the Rue de Steinkirk, my old hacking ground, but we do come up and I believe spear towards the Ready Gascogne. Told you about the hot salads. I'm not sponsored by them, by the way. It's just the best restaurant in Paris, full stop. And everyone who I've recommended previously to go there has enjoyed it. The Sacré-Cœur. Once heard an American tourist very late at night, just below my open window on a hot day, say, well, there it is, the bag of hearts. Now, Sacré-Cœur, I see what he was doing there, but it meant the same. Yeah, I told you, I put him straight. But anyway, ever since then, always referred to as the bag of hearts. Me and Mark Chavet, the man who calls them off the line at the beginning of the day, and will be our host for the, he was host for the team presentation, and will be, I believe, the MC for the jerseys a little bit later on. Great guy. Meanwhile, Greg Scott, we've had one of those in Oscar Onley. I don't know who's going to be today. It's going to be spectacular. I was actually wondering, because it has been effectively neutralised, Brian, whether we might even see Tadej Pogačar himself. And guess what? He's towards the pointy end. He can't help himself.
No, there'll be a lot of them wanting to get involved with this one. He can't stop a good man. So I think Chido Prusek will let it on here, but I think just wait for Wout van Aert. He's brought up towards the front and he'll really want to ignite it. We asked him at the start whether it was going to be the first time up or the last time up, and he said he'd just go with feeling.
Well, there we are. I don't think feeling's riding, but I know what you mean. 40 kilometres from home, just passing by the Relie Gascogne, and indeed now we are indeed heading for the remainder of the day. Can't wait. Yes, just past the Moulin Rouge, high kicking stuff that we've already seen today. Who's going to kick on? Anybody's guess. Let's deal with it, shall we? 4%. That's going to get more gnarly than that. But it's the surface as well that's been such a worry. Different complexion, time to go, time to showboat. A rocket without a stick. It's Alaphilippe. It may not be a full-on display at the end of the day, but my goodness, he likes it up gorgeously.
ولا طاير نزي بيان نزلنا
على فيلبينات على عربي يا حسب التليفون له لا تبغى تسمي زلوا تباسوا من زين بنيام قلنا يتبغى كونيشن زين أكمل في الموضوع
They don't, it's so short to climb, they're not getting a huge amount of difference.
Here comes Pogačar as well. He doesn't want anybody else. It may be raining, but not on his parade, for goodness sake. Healy, our most combative rider, finds himself in this group, just slightly disengaged. No shame in that at all. And listen to this roar. Absolutely fabulous. What an atmosphere. A little bit of respite. They just come over the peak here, and now it's time to head back down and get back down to the Champs-Elysees. We're coming back here, Brian. Be afraid.
Yeah, we come back here a few more times, but Arnaud looking better today. He was dropped first yesterday, so he's up there for Lotto. Pogačar just doing what Pogačar does, looking nice and easy out in the Sunday run, but Wout van Aert has gone with them, so it's whether they make a big difference. He can make some time gaps up and split the Peloton, but I think it'll come back together as well.
Best area of Paris to see the views of the great city itself, just in front of Montmartre itself. The fountains there, they were for some of the pilgrims and the martyrs to actually bathe their wounds after crawling their way up, looking for redemption. Somebody's going to get it today, not quite sure who. What I am sure about, Brian, is that this is a glorious day, and to be honest, this is so special. I can see it's coming back here in the future.
Looking at the crowd, yes, this is an exceptional crowd. Normally, it's all down in the Champs-Elysees, but it just kind of opens the door to a different experience. Put them on a small short climb like that, and you can hear the atmosphere.
Time to come back down then, off the crest. And of course, who else? Tadej Pogačar. He's a showman after all, Sean, and he's on display fully.
I'm Brian, by the way. But yeah, Wout van Aert still going with this one.
The first time we made that mistake.
Yeah, there's so many
كلها
riders.
تعزت يا ساعات 35 كيلومتر يقعد زلو نخودا أساسا شمونت إن 4 كيلومتر تريفور له بزقرن بقعتهم زقويد له بقى فطرتهم سي تعني صبوا له متوشو حبيرنا خمرينا بزق دراماتيك مزينا لو ما عندي غمت زغنا يكون لو ما عندي فليز بلاي مقا أبوش تختمات رأيي برخا يمكنين جينا وش إيه ختمان نه فاينال مالت.
Right now we've got ourselves a little bit of a push on, a little bit more than that. Van Aert comes through, does his turn. Tadej Pogačar, I think he showboated over the top for the first time, clears his nasal passages. Don't be surprised if we have a surprise today.
No, I'm waiting for the surprise, and I think that's why they put the Montmartre in. I was just hoping that the rain stayed off. You can see a lot of damp patches, but Wout van Aert, Alaphilippe, Bergmos, Tobias Lundis there, Ballerini, Pogačar. This is very selective at the moment. I think some others will join them, but some big hitters here at the front.
Certainly, Alaphilippe wanted to show his face. Dali comes through and relays, and this is high quality. Oh, just watch the bouncing wheels and the elbows here. Look at the forearms just starting to ripple. Fantastic. And Tadej Pogačar, well, first time at Montmartre, why not? Do you think you'll be there at the end?
Pogačar زي out اللورا من فينجر.
He wants to race and he'll enjoy the.
أقرأ روتو إيزي عشان فينجر أي حامل.
But there's a lot of riders that have now come up there in this group, so they've been up here once. They've still got another, twice.
شير أين حمق لايك سبسكرايب أين حمق لك عبيتي حدش channel إيزي أتابعنا أبزمت كابزبلة صفنا كل ما أنت أتابعنا لك عبيتي غير ريت عدا.
Is that Campenasso who comes to join the fun?
نابستفر عليه شير بورو أبصحو سبسكرايب بوروها لايك.
We have Tadej Pogačar, we have Wout van Aert, we have Julian Alaphilippe, Ballerini, Anderson, Tobias Lund, we have Arnaud Delay, Jan Barkamos is also here, stirring the porridge, Brian. They want cohesion here.
Yeah, this is Ballerini asking Mohoric to come up here. It's very select group, it's still a large group, of course. This is turning into like a Belgian kermesse. This is just full on racing here. But Victor Campenasso also up there in third place. Doesn't look as if there's a lot of riders wanting to race.
ماليوم كدي بوكاچا نصوصا نخلوته لعبي جنگام تيجي مسلزلو نغميت نخادم صوتا بعدي دارغايين بعد بوكاچان يبقى صورزو كان سبرينتر زي بلان غانتاتكا نايلو ما عن تعدلن نخفتنا نهو قرصا بزح فتنا مخانا كالو مدنغا عباي بيجي تاوريت يا بيني مستون قدام الخنو نغميت وصيلو اوفلي جا صبون دحر كيلان دحر بزيا تاوريت اناتنا يا مالت جوناثان ميلان بدحريتي زلو
Oh wow, this would be something if Caden Groves, and why not after being cock-a-hoop yesterday? Clearly very, very emotional at what he'd achieved, and he's here. So is Tadej Pogačar, so is Wout van Aert keeping tabs on it. Wout van Aert with, of course, Victor Campenasso, clearly part of their battle plan.
Yeah, you've got a good front group here. Pogačar's there. I think Voigtland is in this group. Victor Campenasso, Valentin Parapanta, Paulus Alaphilippe, Stuyven, Bergmos, Tronchon, Tennyson, Adam Buru, Groves, Russo, Tobias Lund, Fred Wright, Mohoric, Gurmai, Ballerini, and Arnaud Delay. So, but you've got another group of about 5 or 6 riders, and then you got another group. This is split up all over the place.
Certainly is. Spots of rain as well. It's what we've been worried about. And indeed, we head back up the Champs-Elysees. What a sight, Brian. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I don't think the riders will be, looking at the dark skies at the moment. But one thing is for sure, there's a few teams that have been added into the mix. I really believe that they can win. This is a
ብዙሕ ካብ ድሕሪት ንቕድሚት ንኸዱ ብዙሕ ፍትን ኣሎ ወላ ካብ ቅድሚት እውን ካብ በዓል ቦካቻ ንምህዳም ካልእ ፀወታ ኢና ንርኢ ዘለና ናይ ብሓቂ ሓዊ ዝኾነ ፀወታ ኢና ካብ ሕጂ ክንርኢ
ብጣዕሚ ብጣዕሚ ፅቡቅ
Dig in then. This is going to be a battle, potentially of attrition. William Gamay trying to join proceedings here. Quick check over the shoulder there of Julia Alaphilippe. This has become now a group of substance. The splits all over the place. There'll be those who just want to ride in, but there's plenty that actually fear that they've missed the front group and they're being called to try and work together. And there's an argument here as to who's going to do all the workload. Lipovic's part of this group.
Yeah, the stronger riders out at front. You got to remember Lipovic's already made an effort earlier on, now paid for it. I think Axel Laurence has made the group in front as well. He came across with a group of 7 riders.
Goodness me, just look at the rain.
Well, this is Bill trying to help Jordan Ayres. He was the last rider to win on this finishing line, but it's a totally different dynamic with the circuit, including Montmartre now.
Very much so. And you can see that the rain that they were worried about has well and truly joined us, Brian.
It has, and that's just, I hope it's not a dampen the way that the guys race. I don't, like I said to Declan on the way in, I don't want the rain spoiling the day, and it looks as if it may do that, because I don't want to see any thrills and spills or anything like that. I just want to see a clean race all the way to the line. You know, but unfortunately the rain has come down, and you know, somebody's going to win, but I think, like you said, we might see a surprise here.
The complexion of the day has indeed moderated. Just look at the flaring of the lights here. That's because the camera aperture has been held wide open, and the road itself looks like a river. It may well get even more so by the end of the day. That's going to cause a few nerves for sure as we head back up to the Étoile and passing what will ultimately be our finish line. It's time for me to bow out of this magnificent race and hand you back over to Declan Quigley, who's going to carry us home.
As Carlton, the weather has closed in somewhat. Could it potentially lead to an opening up of the races? Lucy Powley sits the front, yellow jersey ever prominent. While we're thinking back to 1979 and 1981 when Bernardino took the victory. Yeah, he did it twice in any event. Twice on the Champs-Élysées, twice taking victory in the final stage of Tour de France. And clearly, Tadej Pogacar wants a little bit of that history as well. It's absolutely horrific conditions here. So it's only set to get a little bit more challenging. I suppose up front might be just the place to be in these kind of conditions.
Yeah, 100%. It's the place to be. You know, I think somebody's going to take some risks on this. And if you take risks, you know, well know in the rainy conditions here in Paris that you risk crashing. I don't want that to happen to anybody, but we do have a group of almost 30 riders here at the front. I'm not too sure if anybody will come back, but we are going to see a very selective group that's going to entertain us for the final 30 kilometres here. As expected, the average speed has gone up to over 40 kilometres an hour, but I'll just go through again many of the riders that are here. Pogacar, Voikelin, Jorgensen, Paripantra, that's Aurelian, Campenarts, Valentin Paripantra also involved, Paulus, Laurence, Alaphilippe, Stuyven, Bergmos, Van Aert, as we see this Aert, Abrahamsen, Tronchon, Turnison, Aramburu, Champolsign, Kate Groves, Dumtoys, Rousseau, Tobias Lunds, Matteo Trentin, Fegray, Mahoric, Girmay, Bittner, Ballerini and Delhi.
It's your roll call strongmen on the final day. A few riders who have shown themselves to be suffering from slightly weaker legs. Struggling to fire them up a little bit. This man wants glory today, and the painting a picture with blue skies, which have indeed lit up the Tour de France 2025. But we've had rain the last couple of days, and this is challenging finale in prospect, down to the final 30 kilometres, 25-second advantage, and as Brian has mentioned, around about 30-rider group clear of the field. Chasers behind, including Leibovitz, who was up front and is left behind at this point. Scaronni as well. They managed to make it back up and in as part of this one. We'll keep tabs on that. Of course, it's not relevant for general classification at this point.
No, it was the GC was neutralised at the fourth passage of the line before we went out to Montmartre. You know, we were waiting on confirmation of that. But Carlton came in to the box with that information that he got on site. We are not privy to some of that information. We were told that it would be made if the rain came down. So it was made beforehand of the prospect that the rain would come down and the right to do so. This is the group of Jonathan Milan. Again, I thought Jonathan Milan might have been capable of getting involved here, but off the front of this front group now, we're starting to see the attacks. Matthew Mahoric now going. I just saw the yellow jersey for Pogacar just a bit more gingerly in some of these corners. I just hope that the rain doesn't have a massive effect.
Yeah, like you say, some riders will certainly take a risk or two because it is a stage of the Tour de France. It's the final stage as well, in some ways amongst the most prestigious you can possibly claim. Such a long time Sprinters World Championship, but it's not that today, that's for sure. Do we have any sprinters involved? Well, there's some fast men among those riders. Up front, Biniam Gourmet has made that split. Wout van Aert as well. Huge opportunities for them. Caden Groves, monster race for him. Looking for an unlikely but extraordinary double. Pavel Bittner as well. Tobias Lund is the go-to man for the Picnic Post-Tunnel squad. So they put their fast men into the lead group. Matteo Trentin in his day, fine sprinter, the former European road race champion. We said the likes of when they arrived on the circuit, Ben Healy just not able to encourage or coax those legs to stay involved in this battle. It's not going to have any effect on his top 10 finishing position in general classification, but there's this sense of this being having a bit of a kermesse feel about it. Is enhanced by the reduced nature of this group contesting. Pogacar to the fore. Overall race leader is hereabouts. Isn't it too many teammates? Any teammates, I don't believe, but hasn't prevented him from taking glory in the past. Tiptoeing through and splashing their way through these challenging streets, and that bumpy, difficult. I mean, it is really. I've ridden a Paris rental bike on, and it's like bone jarring. You can imagine what it's like on a like this. Like that is Mohoric just on the front and using his failed bike handling skills to just skip his way around that little impediment, but it's sketchy stuff for sure. And these road conditions are really challenging. Multiple different surfaces, really bumpy stuff. They're going from tarmac to cobbles and back, having to analyse and adjust braking distances and grip levels.
So the thing is with that, the different road surface and white lines and everything you get with city centres and dropping of diesel and things like that. You can see that if you went on the attack before the climb, you can make a bit of difference up in some of these corners because they really are kind of backing off, and in the last lap it could be somewhat different. There's some riders may take an opportunity like Mohoric here. He knows, and look at him, he's pushing the boundaries here. He knows that if he comes to the finish with the guys that are behind, there's some good sprinters in there. So he might also knows he's one of the best bike handlers in the world. So he might want to take a little bit more risk and run into the last time of this Montmartre fight.
Van looks to try and control this strong situation for the Abis bike squad. They've got 3 riders in this group.
ክቡራት ተመዛተልቲ ቢንያም ግርማይ ዘለዋ ቀዳሚት ጉጅለ ጋብ እንዳክተሓታት ከይዘላ ናብ 40 ሰከንድ ገፊሕሎ ትጋር hopefully لما عندي زغل محل تطويلنا لما عندي محل تنيا مالك كابزو ما بزلو تطاوتنا بكنيس نبيني عم كسبو زغل تطاوتها هنا سترا دي يكون ها بعد بوكاتشا هان فعوتو جنجان تجيرو سلزلو تطاوتا فعوت سلزغي لا عبد كابزو هادي مو نايم أتا كابزو هادي فنايم عوات زلو تفضلو بتعن تجيز سام 5 كيلومتر بمولون تمام زلو ناي جيسي تقلادم سلازمو نا هادي مو على تصاوتين خعوت صديق كم سري وزلهم كل جزء فتنالو كل جزء هابل فريكا يدو تطالو مالتي
take his leave
كبار زهونه زناب يزلو كابون حبيت ندحر نبعلو زناب ناوسخي زغيد
continuing to tap along. Biniam Girmay has put himself into a fine position to, in many ways, save his Tour de France. What it mean to his team as well as a battle team that is understood to be in the process of merging with the Lotto squad. Also getting their man Arnaud Delis, some really strong, high caliber sprinters in this group. Riders who know the track conceivably go to the line and win this stage.
Abroma,
in the group with the fast finishers of the likes of
of course, good luck Biniam Girmay for
the Astana squad, and indeed they've got Mike Tennyson as well, a man who's tasted glory in Tour de France in the past. Campenarts gingerly through a couple of bends and then immediately back onto the front to take control. Jorgensen in his wheel. Trentin there as well as Alaphilippe.
بينام كا نويح كان يكون نشي عاقبت نايم حكار نايم حكار كدت زلو ازي صوتازس بقى جكا مهروسي نعود اسبي تصاوتاي ابز سبرينتر صوتان هو دايسا 4 كيلومتر فريقولو almost ناي 10 دقيقه فريقولو
cruising along the wheels as well could be one to watch out for.
5 كيلومتر ساعتين بهول زلو
The increasingly soggy cardboard sign that he's most unlikely to grab, I think, between now and the end of the stage.
بنيام أبسيف أبو حسوان بوتاي إجزاله. نحن أتزنا طبعا جسد غراد أنتي. في ناس لزهنا أبزمتو إنرجي زهلو والحمد مهنيات.
Enthusiasm for this stage, not in any way dampened by the weather conditions at the moment. It's another result on Route de Montmartre. And Pogacar in the line here. He's got a decent finish in amongst those sprinters. He's up against them.
Hopefully كنت already تنام على الحمد لله قديم مسلسلته.
Going to the front, and you know what this means. And the rest of the
بوكاتشا كلهم كترنا فني مالته.
Overall race leader and champion in waiting is launching here as Ballerinios on his tail tries to stay involved. A power climb of just over a kilometer, but he's.
نايبة حكي زين عاودت كل سام مونغوستين. ننتبه من وسلام عليك. بوكاتشا عمنا نتبه حلا يستزلوا. نخطرنا فايد قال يستزلوا معنا.
Making safer for himself, not going for this one, so just about hanging on. He hasn't made the difference.
أبساكل ميسي تلك إزي. نايبة حكي وود زبون شطارين.
Oh, there's a few floundering in there, but will the gaps be significant by the top? He's going to continue this one all the way to the top. Another 100 meters of absolute hell in the wheel of Vatane
كم جاب اللوات وما كل ميزان لو كلهم حرقنا تتاوتي.
Still a little bit to go.
قريت الله تاوتا قريت الله.
For the Bismarck bike squad. Pogacar winding his way, but he needs to keep the pressure on here because that gap is narrow. Is it decisive? Having to back off, even going uphill through that cobbled corner. Remarkable the kind of speeds that they pick up, and now things are a little bit challenging. They tiptoe their way down the descent, but the chase is behind as well. It's a real headache as to the level of risk that you can possibly employ to try and get back to the yellow jersey.
كنيمتاي راح كم زدوين نحن كرت زي الخلمبا بعد بوكاتشا من بعد بينام جوجلان يشيت فنش لهم وتيوم هالو جبلي حريت متباب منقد نعم سلزين ريم زخم بدو قاعدة ديك علنا من وات يرام دنوسين بمصلحات حجين يوم كل تنك ساينس لزخانة
this descent next time round, or even before we get to this part. Milan-San Remo winner, of course, and his victory founded in large measure on a beautiful and extraordinary descent at the Poggio. He's managed to there as well. Will be able to make that junction a significant junction. Quite a few riders eliminated, potentially. Remains limpet-like, attached to the back wheel.
التساوات عايز فولي كيلومتر كرقت سلازخل كم زلنا 4 كيلومتر دار كوينوس 4 كيلومتر بين وكرقت فولي كذا زلوا تساوات هاي
one more leap up. One map's got to come. But still as much as 21.5 kilometers remaining. Go back to Jonathan Milan's almost a minute in arrears at this point, and surely out of contention for a third stage victory. Look at the claim green with glory on the Champs-Élysées. Ballerini recognises the opportunity that he has managed to create for himself by being able to hold the wheel of the world champion. Stunning performance for Ballerini, and he's flying one of a couple of Italians in this group. Is a stronger of the two. Giro Sarto, who is the former European champion, is a fast finisher from the small group as well. He'll be content with the current scenario.
كان حجي كتب عكاد أرجع competition in this group because Wout van Aert is a teammate of Jorgensen. So he Visma Leesabek have now got Wout van Aert. There are another couple of fast finishers, but he's got a teammate to be able to help him. And this is probably a great chance for him to win his زي يوحنا احنا زلينا مالت الدروت هسه ممكن نستمر
Well, we're getting a full-blooded race. This race has been absolutely on and on proper since probably even before we arrived into Paris. So I think a final stage. Inside 20 to go as Jorgensen just drops to the back of this group, no doubt with plans to make an appearance on the front. His teammate Wout van Aert cruising through. I spoke about his potential for stage victory. Got second place already. Just one stage win indeed for the Visma Leesabek squad. Most represented team in this group with two riders. And this is so sketchy, isn't it? That is a real tiptoe left-hander there. And Ballerini fairly fired at it. Jorgensen a little bit more circumspect, and the riders just going to scrub off as much speed as they possibly could. Absolutely no lean on those bikes through those bends. Beautifully judged. Rest behind or get out of it. It's less than 20 seconds. That's why we've got full cooperation in this group.
Yeah, they're in a good chance. Look at this, the smaller the group, the more the rounds, because they don't want anybody else to come up. They know that they're within 20 kilometres of potentially trying to win. It's safer being here. They know what they're up against. They've already seen some dodgy corners here in the different road surfaces, so they really don't want to be caught. That's why they're all riding here. Be interesting to see who's riding in the group behind, but 15 seconds, not a lot. It still can come back, but if everybody rides here, then there is a chance. Well, when they come back before the climb, if it comes back, it's a high victory. Strongest riders
on that power climb. The ones that are out front at the moment, they're pretty strong on the flat road as well. Look at the chase behind with Paris-Poltre. His hopes and dreams of a second stage victory.
Can you see the fronts? I'm not too sure. Somebody must be riding because it's stretched out, but it's very difficult to see. We don't have a motorbike at the front here. Well, yeah, very difficult to see who is riding. But yeah, this looks as if this is a good selection. Everybody's prepared to ride because everybody knows what you said. It's a lot safer here in this spot.
طبعا بنيامنا نسحب تايجر زلو ولا هندمتون كأننا قابلين النار هواي زلونا لا زلونا من قد قطعت من هذا بس عبارون كان تسيفون كتوبات اللي فيهم بعد الجنة حدا قاعد نعتبر زلو قطعت عصرت كلمة زي مرة نفسهم فيهم خدوا طبعا حدا عصرت كلمة نفسهم فيهم
examination of the rider's ability.
Oh, this is going to be a stage that we're going to be talking about for some time now. This has changed the whole complexion of finishing here in Paris. Adding in Montmartre, which would have been great, but adding in the element of the rain as well, and it's completely shattered the Peloton. There's riders absolutely everywhere. They're already in the hands and knees coming into this stage. And they've really raced it. Pogacar has taken it by the scruff of the neck. And I can't see it's Aurelien and Paris-Poltre for Decathlon in the front there. Who else is going to ride? You can see that they've got a bit between their teeth in front. These guys that are in front are just pushing out second by second. They don't want anybody coming back to them.
So the captain Major Dwar Monial are absent from this.
دامي سجلنا هاد كالي سجلنا نبع بنيام ده تسجعات نعم عوات كل طن ده هنا زيرو بس نزخي وهم يلا هاي تقولون كلهم مديرهم صار زلهم مالك.
On the Champs-Élysées, he's going to try and replicate the achievement most recently of Bernardino in the early 1980s. No records that this man is not willing to tilt at, and today he's giving himself a racer's chance, but he knows he needs to ditch some, if not all, of these riders if he's not going to be vulnerable in a finishing kick.
I think he needs to ditch them all. I think all of them have got an element that maybe he has, and maybe his countryman Mahoric, but I really do think that you can see that the way they're riding, and there's no way the 6 riders in that second group riding as well as these guys are.
Ballerini sprinting well, he's got a 5th already. Fanart's got a 2nd place finish on the group ride to the line, and that's what Fanart is going to be using to try and take the glory today. What a comeback it would be for him as well after his injury woes last year, and he's down towards the back at the moment, just a little concerned. Look over the shoulder, 25 seconds. Which significant enough, you would imagine, that they'll start to feel a little bit more secure, but they can't afford to ease up just yet. Einkorn. European road race champion not going to be able to push for glory on the Champs-Élysées today, and add to his total of 3 stage victories. He's calling for a little bit of assistance. Lewis asking the Palma FDJ as well. Victory drag continues.
subscribe زي قبلكم subscribe
the triumph behind him for the final time in Tour de France stage 21, and Pogacar presumably making plans. Is it all going to be on that final plan?
Mahoric may want to do something beforehand. I think for your
أبغى كنت هون على كور محلو فلوتي هلا يجي هم دفتاتنا نحدهم فلوتي مالك.
But I think for Pogacar, he will leave it to the final climb. Of course, 1982 was the last time that the yellow jersey won, and it was a 2-man up group of himself and Zoetemelk. They were, I think, 1st and 2nd in the general classification at that time, and they came to the finish together. But
This is torture for every rider here. Absolutely torture.
زين 10 كيلومتر كتصبون لحد كيلو مزيان نعم حاجة وقوع البنيان مالتي ورتصبون بسبب زم قدامي زلاقي جدا ونايو حتى أو حاجة هاي وركستيز فرح وتيرمين
the final stage, nothing predictable about it. The usual patterns don't apply. Matt Van Aert fully focused, and to a large measure, saving his Tour de France. His Melissa bike as well, of course. A lovely stage victory for them, courtesy of Simon Yates on stage 8. But since then, it's been all about watching as Tadej Pogačar has lorded over them somewhat. Leibowitz, after his bid for glory out front earlier on, he finished third, head to the podium, collect that white jersey. He'll have a fresh and freshly laundered and beautiful crisp new white jersey to collect. The most important one of all, of course. Third German to win that jersey.
Although we've got a great race at the front, but as a spectator, do you want to see this? Do you want to see riders just dropping off and you know, riding?
Forgetting about it,
yeah just riding. Do you want to see that? I quite enjoyed the big sprint finish, the big finish to the Tour de France and the Champs-Elysees.
I think we will see them needed to stay in case they lost a place. They wanted to at least stay involved all the way through to the final kilometre.
Yeah, it was a sprinters fest. It's one for the sprinters, but this is a totally different thing altogether.
Well, if it were dry, we wouldn't have this neutralisation of the general classification. So maybe in subsequent years, with a dry finish, you will have the excitement of this finale added to the fact that more riders will want to stay as close to the front as possible.
Potentially, but maybe the other way around. Maybe take them onto the Montmartre circuit and then bring them onto the Champs-Elysees to finish for a few laps instead of what we've had this year. So we've had the flat laps around flattish around Champs-Elysees and then out to Montmartre.
But if you put the climb further from the finish, does it not sort of push it more towards the sprinters?
Yes.
Well, I don't think Tadej Pogačar would agree with you right now, would he? He really wants this win. Sure, Wout van Aert either would. He's happy with it. But Anna Deli absolutely, definitely would very much like to be involved back up front and trying to press on. That might be helping him to try and close that gap, but it's an increasingly forlorn prospect, isn't it?
I know قبل دليل بتعمل سبعة زل حاليت بجلدين وزح عجز درجات رهبونة مثل بين دم طلوع عندنا كي زين ما يبحث عندها تبراري مصاب زلوا ما مول درجة ترادي مخوري بعدين حجة عقبة نسبة عقبة 4 كيلومتر تليفون ماله أو نسبة صحة قرارة مهانة فلوت نجار.
So he's going to try and anticipate it. So it's going to be a fascinating final, no matter what. Still think it's going to be very difficult for Pogačar in this position to win with the riders he's got here, because realistically, if he wants to win, he has to distance everybody this time up the climb.
Jorgensen there for Wout van Aert, that's useful.
كتعاوتي مزوم زلو بوقاتنا معواتنا كلفن بعد تسبب هذا لازم تطلع عقبة قورطة من دحر زكين مسونا بحركة هو دغي مالي جاء غرب نيشي توارين قاليتي وجدنا يمتقع فهو زلو بين هوفلي بزفر وزلو درجنا قدامي تبجدينا صوتها دغي مالي.
Attacked by a form of defence as Jorgensen goes to the front, and he doesn't get as much as a bike length advantage as Martin Mohoric recognises the danger and the numerical advantage. Just one extra rider. It does make a difference though, especially when you've got a rider as strong as the Paris-Nice winner, Matteo Jorgensen, tiptoeing through these little bit-path sections and onto the smoother tarmac. And at the back, Pogačar maybe saving it. Final climb is looming. We'll hit the climb, so to speak, with about 7 and a bit kilometres remaining. over the top with 6.2 to go. After which it's pretty much downhill all the way to the conclusion. Jorgensen, after that push through to the front, stays on the front, recognises his responsibility, and will set the tempo to prevent perhaps a Mohoric attack in anticipation of that climb. Mohoric riding through, no one boxing clever just yet. Oh, it is interesting that the yellow jersey might have missed a turn or two here.
Yeah, just keeping out of the way, not getting involved. He will go on the climb, but everybody knows that as well. It's so short, he wasn't able to get rid of everybody the last time up. I'm not too sure he'll get rid of everybody here. Jorgensen playing the game now, going, no, you're not sitting in the back, you have to do something.
أبزهاول حنتي أيتوقع راحون ملو كوميتد كوينة يمسك.
Rides through and just tries to miss a turn there.
Slowed a little bit now. They're kind of waiting with anticipation now what Pogačar is, and they know what he's going to do in his final climb. But the gap is significant now, 45 seconds. You're not going to close that. If it's a kind of normal kind of run in towards the finish, you give them a chance, but not in this circuit with these tricky corners.
So two riders in this group that aren't interested in this being a group finish, basically, Mohoric and Tadej Pogačar. Is that?
I would think so. But then again, Pogačar, he's won sprints in the past. He's beaten some of the riders that are here. I just think that if he wants to win today, he has to go solo. He'll go on this climb. I think Jorgensen, well, he just might set a tempo that's just hard enough to keep Wout van Aert here. It looks as if Wout van Aert, he is quite happy to go with the sprint in this group.
Yeah, Mohoric launches. Well, actually, he's having to launch, isn't he, to get on terms with Matteo Jorgensen again. He covers a Jorgensen attack, and Mohoric just does like to sort of do a little bit of a toreador routine, doesn't he, with those pieces of road furniture.
They're leaning on Pogačar to bring this back. It was just a case of Wout van Aert just letting Jorgensen go around the corner, just using the numbers there. Mohoric running a little bit of time. He found that hard to close that gap there, but it was another effort from Pogačar.
He senses that the wheel to be on is the other jersey, but also they don't want to ease up, and they're probably, what's the level of communication in terms of understanding what the gap is? We see on our screen it's 45 seconds. They're hearing from the team car potentially getting a little bit of delayed information, so you can understand that they're anxious to continue to tap through and keep the chain as tight as possible as we approach the moment. And here he goes again, and it's Trentin that covers Jorgensen as he gets a little bit of a gap, and it's Pogačar that has to cover this one. He recognises his responsibility. No way Mohoric is going to come off the wheel of the yellow jersey. Now approaching the technical section. Making the left turn at Moulin Rouge. Endure on this climb.
أبزين أندري مالتي مقررة حجي بوكا تابع المثال له تايه قبر حجي هوريني.
They all know what's coming. He's got from the bottom, and he'll go the whole way up here. Just has to get round this corner,
and he has to go from the bottom just to make the climb, as long as possible. And Wout van Aert's probably put himself in the perfect position, as close to the front as possible, with that being the one that's setting this frenetic tempo. Listen to the roar of the crowd as Tadej Pogačar goes on the rampage.
صح يجيكو هورتو زغل تقاطع يرهبن دلو معاري مسويم يزم دلو.
Through the left-hander, it eases ever so slightly, and it'll go again. Mohoric has put himself in prime position. Ballerini's covering as well. All these riders have shown themselves to be the strongest. They're all still latched on. A little bit of a crack developing between Trentin and Jorgensen at the back. They're all nodding dogs there. And Pogacar goes at this hill again, still 620 metres for these riders to endure. Not sure Jorgensen can handle too much more of this, but his teammate, Wout van Aert, is still attached to the back wheel of the yellow jersey.
درو خلطة قريت وان مالو غلطة ترين هوتلو هيلو مالتي قالوا كلها تقريت الله مالو نلا فان أرت بيمان كيدلو أمونغو فان أرت أمونغو تيدي بوكاتشان تغير صوتها مالتي فان أرت بلا عينة عيلي أرين هلكا ونبوكاتشا قريتو ونبوكاتشا قريتو تأمري زيزي تأمري نعم معنا يبحث تأمر واو سبعي يودو سبعي بزي عند حركة الوازا صوتانا تيام أفلي كله نيوكاتشا هورد تخل غانار ما بحق نفرة تجاوات هاي جن بزي بقعت هاللو يتحط جن زي سنير كاجن هذا لو جديش كيلومتر تعابي رونك تبعوه يقول دي ما يكون نبعلم نستمتع قراري تمس لزلو حجي دارقا كلهم بكرونومترين درو هاب بوكاتشان شوعة سكندانتي كلهم واو إذن أي بحاكي كم زبلنا يا مودات من عودك قمة هاي كالي في فرنسا يعني أنا كم هاي عايز تتعرف عايز سابين بتونا يعني برا يا تطلع عم شكلي متفرق فوقه شو عس شو سكن أنت كلهم هذول مع البوكاتشا زلا وقلت مستزلا أنا سايكل لندقن كلهم مستزلا تعمل بقى إذا زخنا ناي سايكل لندي زلا ما بعكي عملنا زينو perfect جزيو سكاتو جيرو نايبا حق هاته تكيمل بنايبا كاتشا إنرجي تسحب واتي أبيلا يا تباطي جزيو سكاتو جيرو بيلا هنهلكم كادرو 10 سكندات سهيلة
looking to improve on his best finish in this year's Tour de France of second.
I'm always forgetting Simon Yates, who's won a stage, so if not, there's slim pickings, but this would be the stage that they really need. The second overall, Yates a nice stage win all that time ago, but Pogacar losing even more time. I don't think he's coming back.
That's done. Is it done? I mean, is there any way that Tadej Pogacar can get back on one-on-one? And Pogacar, in actual fact, looks like he's dropping into the clutches of the nearest pursuers, led by Matej Mohoric almost inevitably on the descent.
تبين بوكاتشا عقبت قررت الكاسني في التيم ولا حدث بقومتهم حسبان زيك إلا جاي.
Tadej Pogacar, frustratingly for him, as things currently stand, is riding into a sprint finish for second position on the stage. Nonetheless, glorious overall victory to be celebrated of his career.
حاسبوا a perfect game اسكاتو جيرو
2025 with a flourish.
نلكم كعاود كدرجة نوعات مثل
And Ballerini links up as well, so it's a four-way effort. And is there enough strength potentially to get them back on close about 4 seconds a kilometre?
تشعني إسران حموشتن نمو داتا صوتنا إسران حدن ستيج تعاوتي بانارت مهم درجة أفليت وهنا بالنخليها ما
from the effort for Wout van Aert. This, as we've seen in the past, is a really
تيجي حد شانالي ونا سبورت شانال نقولاتكم أبقى جزء مثلا كل تحكم كل جزء حاكم شو أكل سلجنا سبسكرايب بدوري أبزر جحنا ها مثلا كل تحكم كان نوتيفيكيشنا ونقولوا زلكم حسابات كأبكم أنت تحكمنا نعهم زحبس نقدر نقبل دلواتنا على ما عند 25 حموشتن ما بل 20 حدا
was here at
ናይ
resets.
መወዳእታ ናይ
Now
ቱር ዲ
2.5
ፍራንስ
kilometers and for
ቫን አርት ተዓዋታ
Aert,
ኮይኑ
it's
ነው
been
ማለት ነው።
a funny old year, really. He hasn't had anything like the success that he's used to. Some suggesting in Belgium, disquieting
ናይ ባሕቂ ናይ ክሮኖሜትር ተጫዋታይ ኣብዚ ጉዳይ እዚ ይሰዓር ኢልካስ ክትግምቶ ዘይትኽእል ዓይነት ተጫዋታይ
all around Flanders and beyond. But
ናይ
maybe
ምፅጋዕ ዘለዎም ተኽእሎ ከዓ ዳርጋ ዜሮ ኮይኑ ማለት እዩ።
finishing somewhat, but
እዚኦም ብምሎም ገዲፎም እዮም ቦካቻ እዩ ዝስሕብ ዘሎ
This is a performance up there with the best. I've seen
ኩሎም
Pogacar
ንኻልኣይ
the
ኮይኑ
way
ውድድር
he
ማለት
managed to drop Pogacar. We were
20
talking about
ሰከንድ
Pogacar
ን1.7 ኪሎ ሜትር ፈፂሞም ክፅግዑ ወይ
let alone over that dropping everybody himself, even Pogacar. This is, you know, up there
ናይ
with some
ባሕቂ
of the best
ቫን ኣርት
performances
ሎም
I've
መዓንቲ
seen
ዘርአየ
Wout van Aert do.
ፀወታ ናይ ባሕቂ ፍሉይ ፀወታ እዩ
steals another look
ንቦካቻ
over his
ኣብ
shoulder.
ዓቐበት ክቆርፅ ተጫዋታይ ምርኣይ ማለት እዚ ተኣምር እዩ ኮይኑ ዘሎ ማለት እዩ ኣብ ዝረኣናዮ 3 ዓመት ሙሉእ እሲ ሓደ ሰብ ብጀካ ቫን ኣርት ወላ ሓደ ሰብ ንቦካቻ ኣብ ዓቐበት ዝቆርፅ ተጫዋታይ እዚ ከዓ ናይ ባሕቂ ኩሎም ተጫወቲ ናይ ባሕቂ ክሳይ ዝገበሩ ይመስሉ ማለት እዩ ታዲ ቦካቻ በቃ ዳርጋ ተስፋ ቆሪፁ ገዲፋ ፀወታ ኣሎ ናብ ክሳይ ኮይኑ ማለት እዩ እንደለኩም ቫን ኣርት ናብ ዓወት ንምጉንፃፍ 1 ኪሎ ሜትር ተሪፎ ኣሎ
makes his way through the final right-hander that will take him the 700 meters
ናይ መወዳእታ
to the finish line.
25-21 ዙርያ ቤልጅየም ወሲዳታ ኣላ ማለት እዩ
Usually, without the presence of most of the rest of the peloton. Well, the 30-year-old from Arendals now can start to settle in and enjoy the moment. 9 stage victories in
ምስሓቅ ጀሚሩ ኣሎ በቃ ዓወቱ ካብ ሕጂ ክፅንብር ጀሚሩ ኣሎ ማለት
he has already tasted
ዓወት 20-25 ምበር 21 ስቴጅ ቫን ኣርት ኢኹም ትሪእዎ ዘለኹም ክቡራት ተኸታተልቲ ናይ ባሕቂ ፅቡቕ ብቕዓት ስማርት ዝኾነ ከዓ ናይ ባሕቂ ብሉፃት ተኸሳስባ ከዓ ኣብዚ ብሉፅ ግዜ ፐርፌክት ታይም ናይ ቦካቻ ሓይሊ ተሰሒቡ ክሳብ ላዕሊ ምውፅእ ኣብ መወዳእታ ክሳይ ኮይኑ
You can begin to compose. Now you can thank the team.
ሕጂ በቃ ፃዕሪ ወዲኡ በቃ ንህለካ ዓወቱ ዘኽብረሉ እዋን ህጪ ማለት እዩ ንድሕሪ ድዩ ኣረጋጊፂ ክመፅእ የለን
He completes the Tour de France stage wins, and now it's a second victory of the season and of this Tour de France for the Visma bike squad. Scrap for the minor honours behind, looks as if it's going to validate Ballerini. Pogacar joined up again, and we'll have to make do with fourth in the final stage. Nonetheless, a curious performance from
ኦልሬዲ
the likes
ክፅንብል
of
ጀሚሩ ኣሎ ማለት እዩ
Glory once again.
ኣብ ታሪክ ተራእዩ ደይፈልጥ ነገር ማለት ኣብ ታሪክ እኳ እንዲሆን ኣብ 3 ዓመት ግን ንቦካቻ ኣብ ዓቐበት ክቆርፅ ዝኽእል ተጫዋታይ በቃ ብጀካ ዮናስ ቪንጌጋርድ ካልኣይ ተራእየ ነይሩ ንሱ ከማን ማዕረ ክንዲዚ ዓይነት ኣቆራርፃ ዝበል ሓንቲ ቫን ኣርት ናይ ባሕቂ ዝግቦ እዩ
Finally has something to celebrate from Tour de France 2025. Smiles and a great sense of relief for the riders as they'll make their way through to the finish line now, contesting for the minor positions.
ኣኽሪቱ ጀለና ባዓል ጊንያ ምፃለ
Friends.
أوكي نفكين مئتاوي تغلسنا هستايس فلوتي
UCI points given in on offer. No glory 2 days in a row for Caden Groves, but he takes care of business. The Campionats will celebrate this one long and hard. Once close to taking a win himself in the second place finish, but he's done a lot to help deliver. Glory for Wout van Aert.
Jambo Vismane Bahaki.
Jorgensen, I think, has delighted. That was a crack.
It was a cracker and a cracking performance by Wout van Aert. You know, we're looking at this man the whole time. You know, he wanted to try and win here. He tried hard. He animated the race. He made the splits in the end, but Wolf van Aert was just on a different level from everybody else today. That was incredible performance what Wolf van Aert. That's Wolf van Aert of old. And he's not that old, but that's Wolf van Aert of old. That's what he's capable of. The power at the end. Saving the best till last. That was, I was saying during the tour that Ben Healy's win was, one of the most exciting stages that, this year's tour. But that was incredible there, what Wolf van Aert did. But, they haven't won the tour. They've now won 2 stages and finished second overall, but winning here is now super special.
Yeah, it's taken the edge off any disappointment that they might have felt about what ultimately, of course, is it's going to be a second place finish. Both Pogacar and Jonas Vingegaard on a different level compared to the rest in the battle for GC honours. So constantly and consistently finishing behind Tadej Pogacar can be frustrating. To be, to win that final stage and to actually beat Tadej Pogacar in the way that they did for the Visma Bike squad, they'll take considerable pleasure from that. But what a final flourish from Wout van Aert. But we should take nothing away from the performance of Tadej Pogacar across the 3 weeks. He's been the dominant performer, no less than 4 stage victories, 21 stage wins in his career to this point, and Tadej Pogacar at still just 26 years of age, has his best years in front of him potentially. Groups coming in, they'll be coming in for a while. Florian Leipowitz, not too far from the line for the white jersey. Through the final bend, the crowds have had to brave the elements. Here's Geraint Thomas, 39 years of age, riding to the line for the final time, and the riders around him, I think it's good to see, including the green jersey of Jonathan Milan, are going to allow the Welshman his moments to lead the group up. The 2018 Tour de France winner, Geraint Thomas, riding to his final finish line in Paris. There's a bit of racing to do between now and the end of the season. I presume Tour of Britain is amongst his important appointments to conclude his career. All the riders and the legal track squads ranged around Jonathan Milan in these concluding moments, and all smiles. What are the emotions going to be for Geraint Thomas? What a wonderful career. The only man in history to have been the youngest rider in an edition of the Tour de France and the oldest rider in an edition of the Tour de France. His first Tour de France coming fully 5 years before any other rider in this race had their first Tour de France. Career for him. Still a way to go in his career for Pogacar. Born in Ljubljana, grew up in Climax. The glory of the final day for Arnaud Démare, but he'll soak up the atmosphere as he's soaked up the moisture and the spray.
بيان قرمي لو ما عندي يعني راه تسفانا زغرمي نزعي وطلع قريتنا هلكا اتريفوني بيان من نفس الحرف سبعة كان سبورتي سبورتها مع الفلاتي نسخان تعرفان سمارتها كونا لا ما عرفت انترماشي بدي قامتا بدي حاجه تاوها نهلكم زعينة واقعها من ما سلوعاتهم سحيل كله بنيام قرما حما واقعها فيلو مالي أنا عام بنيام قرما كل سب قامتا غير كبير كله انترماشي بوزح تقف بوزح سبونسر رهيبة دقفت قبر اللي بوزح سبي مسجون قلنا بانصارو بوزحنا سبونسر تقام يروا ودك تقاوتون كتمص ስለዚህ ካለ ነህለኩ ናብዛ ሓደጋ ወዲቆሎ ጂኒያ እዚያ ተቀራራን ብሽክለታ ኣብቲ ቴዲ ቦካቻ ትኾን ዘላ ማለት ልክዕ ከምኡ ተቀራራን ብሽክለታ كان زبلنا إن شاء الله مت العامة بنيام جرمي أبلوتو آتي زحشن صوتان خبيني أتزلنا نرني عاود كامس فهولي فون خاي كيري ساكالوت بعد عشان بعد هنا بعد قال أتيو نابس تحوي سمو بيرفع أو سابز بالجداي تودي فرانك يوري إيطاليا بمولو زي مونيمنتس بحال كريموت ساب بيرفع عند عبله عارض لنا بنيام قربان أبدا حان كانت أتيو ما كان تزلنا إني عاوتن لبنا جرس نظر كدي بس فان بيرفع برا
what's likely to eventuate. All smiles pretty much from every rider as they make their way through. Relieved at this point as well to make their way safely home for one. Emotions have been relief as well as joy. A sense of satisfaction.
By the way, Tour de France كساب حجنا كاد الجمر ميتين قلنا عمتاتيو جيرزونا نتا ماليا دوسلا جن بدرجة بالشعب بناي عقبت بناي كسر نتا ماليا زحزن هاجرات إسران كلتن هاجرات كاب أفريقيا بين غينيا درماي كون كله كاب نورث أمريكا نايرو كينتانا كاب أمريكا فروم كساب حجي إسران كساب حجي زماليا زيانا بإيشيا أتوتن أبو أستراليا وني أجيب عمي ببينيان درماي تعود كدن كلا خاسني فعابشي ميون نفسون عابشي زمر كثير أنا يفعابش فلتا كثير وخلا خاخا أزيو عادي أبو كتون ستايل جير جنوا الحين كسبورت مع التيم انتي عندي سبورت تمارو لعينة من راس جماعة نفسي حنتي ويكل تستيسي مستبقعات زلونا يبيني عند ما يسكن بس نخل نيرناينا
جيكات من زوال غازي
no stage success for him. A couple of experiences of Tour de France.
يودان لين هاجو يخاها نحن تمصانا غريب كان مسكن تام قالس فلاي كبرات تخاطلتي كم سبسكرايب ديجوركم سبسكرايب ناجوركم لايك ناجور.
That's what it's been for so many. On the stage swings and roundabouts. That's a roundabout. That's a road furniture. Here's Peloton's Tim Wellens. Stage win for Wellens, of course, was one of the standout days. Superb delivery, tactical acumen, and fabulous athletic ability. Chinese win for these. Australian partners. Yeah, 19. Making plans for the party. Which party are we going to? Got a flight. That was incredible what he did there. It was unexpected and it was beautiful for all that. He just rode Pogacar off the wheel. Many people can say that. And this is Pogacar that he's probably the best he's ever been. Maybe the best he ever will be. Yeah. Certainly his level of dominance. I mean, Jonas Vingegaard had a really good run into this year's Tour de France. He couldn't say the same in 24, so there were doubts about the level of dominance that Tadej Pogacar had relative to Jonas Vingegaard. This year, though, it's been a fairly clean run for Jonas Vingegaard. Yeah, he's had no answer really to the power across the full 3 weeks of Tadej Pogacar. Albeit he probably looked a little bit more dominant in the Pyrenees than he did in the Alps, but honestly, it's, we're nitpicking a little bit.
لا بحق عاويتي هاي ورحم باي ذا واي ولا نعود رايدون حدا تقاطعي تور دي فرانس كود مخالد راي كمان كم عام نغري كم عام نغري كاتم جمرو صوتا سني 45% سني صوتا قوتليو ايكادنا قارصمي حجي بنيام وي زنبونا مريم زلنا سني ولا مودهم نبعلس عاب نغر مخاني يدرس
It's lower down GC than he's used to be, actually. He's completing his 12th Grand Tour today. No stage win. First time that's happened in a while. Big place overall for Primož Roglič. And Jonathan Narvaez is in, so that'll be a source of great relief and delight to AbisPICTURES and friends. Quinn Simmons has a trip to the podium as well to collect his most valuable teammate award. Pollock might have had something to say about that particular award. He's been extremely useful for AbisPICTURES as indeed as Tim Wellens.
ክቡራት ተኸታተልቲ ንሎማዓንቲ ኣዳሊና ልኩም ዝነበርና መደብ ኣብዚ ወዲና ኣለና ሓቂ ብኩዕሾ ብገለ ብኩሉ መደባት ስለንመፃኩም ኣብ ነፍሲ ወከፍ ላይፍ ኣብ ዘርጋሕናሉ እዋን መታን ክመፃኩም ሳብስክራይብን ኖቲፊኬሽን ከዓ ታደወልካ ኣብ ርህዋሙን ኩሉ ግዜ ኣብ ዳኣተናሉ እዋን መታን ቀጢፉ ንክመፃኩም ማለት እዩ كذا حجم صناعكم ندامس قلنا لو ما عاد نبرنا مدب أبزودي لنا.
ديفا 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 دكيري.
ديفا دكيري.